Hello and welcome to Level Up and Friends, the podcast where those of us from the comic book and video game store, Level Up Entertainment, get together with some friends and have a different discussion every week about something we're passionate about. This week's one of the things we're most passionate about, and it's Batman movies. Almost any given day, you can hear one of us complain or talk about a Batman movie with someone or each other in the store. As usual, I'm your host, Scott, and joining me this week, I've got Kendall.
Hello.
We've got Harry.
Hey, everybody.
And joining us for the first time this week, we've got Shenandoah.
Hello.
Thank you guys for joining me so much. Shenandoah, this is our first time on, so thank you for having it. Thank you for being able to join us.
Thank you.
So I'm excited. Let's just get into this now. There's a lot of cinematic Batman to cover. We're going to go through, first what we're going to do is we're going to go through the release of Batman theatrical movies. And give our thoughts on them. We'll cut, and then after commercial break, we'll talk about our favorites and least favorites. So let's, and just before anyone goes in the comments and stuff, be like, they didn't do the movie serials from the 1930s. We're specifically talking about movies, theatrically released movies where you sit in one session and watch them. Also, I doubt basically anyone but me has seen those serials on the panel. So we're gonna start it with Batman the movie in 1966, starting Adam West and Burt Ward. I don't want to tip my hand too much, but people that longtime listeners know I love the 60s Batman show. It's the Batman costume I have. It's hanging on behind my closet right to my left. I really enjoyed this movie. It's intentionally funny, like it's an intentional comedy. Which I think if you don't go into it with that mindset where you're trying to expect a serious Batman movie, you're going to be either woefully confused or incredibly disappointed, or a combination thereof. But I don't know if anyone else has seen it and has any thoughts about it.
I think it's a brilliant Batman movie. And just like, I mean, you could say about the show in general, but like, it is funny. But when I was a kid, it took Penguin's exploding shark very seriously, and it works. And that is also the magic of just that show in general. Like, kids will be there for like the action aspect of it, and like they can get fully invested in that, and like an adult can watch it and be like, this is great camp.
Yeah, it's to its strength, and I think what makes it work is Adam West is so good. He plays everything so deadpan and serious, no matter what ridiculous thing. Like, there's a part where they're stranded out on a buoy and a torpedo's coming to get them, and the bad guys think they killed them, and it's revealed like off screen that like a dolphin threw itself in the way of that to save them. And it's so silly and dumb, but like that's what makes it so funny, because he's like, that noble creature saved its, gave us its life. We have to like make sure it's like sacrifice wasn't in vain. Like, he's explaining this to Robin like this is a real serious life lesson. And that to me is so funny, because he takes it seriously. He's not like winking at the camera, and that's what makes it so charming. And I know we're focusing on Batman's for this episode, but like the villains in it are great. It's probably some of my favorite versions of like, it's literally my favorite version of the Penguins, one of my favorite versions of the Riddler, one of my favorite versions of the Joker. I like Eartha Kitt's Catwoman a little bit better from the same era, because again, she plays it a little bit more silly, like she does more cat puns and stuff. So not to tip our hand too much farther into the discussion, but I like that kind of stuff with my Batman, because I think he's an inherently silly concept. His name is Batman. He fights a clown. So I don't know. But if you're going for the more lighthearted take on Batman, this is one of my favorites to do.
And it just has such a good style to it that like other, and we'll get into it, but I think like stylistically, a lot of like the Batman movies are like, this is very much of the time. And not saying that Batman the movie isn't of its time, but it's also very good at being timeless.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, you're right. It is extremely 60s, but like they're not making like references to things in the 60s. They're not like wearing bell bottoms and stuff. But yeah, it's very much, because it really nails like the classic old school comic book aesthetic. Like all the shots with the villains are at a Dutch angle because they're crooked people. So the camera is crooked. I don't know. I loved it as a kid. I love it even more as an adult. It's like you said, like when you're a kid, you take it real serious. Like you're in it. Like their world is it's for serious. But like as an adult, I get that they're making this is intentionally supposed to be like funny. Like that penguin has like dehydrated like goons that like he sneaks. I love when he's like he's under disguise as this other character, so like Batman will take him to the Batcave, but Batman and Robin are like, this is clearly the Penguin because he looks and acts exactly like the Penguin, just with a beard. They're like not falling for any of his stuff. It's really funny. But I think we'll move on because the next one, it's just really crazy that like Batman's been around for so long. So in the 60s we got a theatrical movie and we didn't get another one until 1989. So yeah, let's talk about Batman 89. I think it's arguably, I think, the most iconic Batman movie. I don't know if anyone would disagree with me on that.
It's just crazy how you take the 66 movie and then you go to 89. It's just like so jarring. It's so on the opposite end of everything. It's very dark and the Tim Burton style. It's so strange that that I don't know. I guess this is reflecting what was going on in the country at the time, was going on in the comic books. But it's just such a departure from what came before. And, I guess the 66 people maybe grew up or whatever they say about it. But
I remember at the time, I mean, granted in 89, I was 4, but I know a lot of the conversation that happened around then is a lot of people kind of went through like where they did not like the 60s show, the camp and stuff. They were embarrassed and thought it was silly. So I know the comics, like from the 70s and the 80s especially, were going in like the exact opposite direction and making Batman real dark. So this is a reflection of that. So I think it was intentionally done to be the opposite style of the 60s version of Batman.
That said,
Yeah.
it's not so. It is dark, but it's still directed by Tim Burton, so it's dark in that really surreal kind of like way, just like
Yeah, it's got like a dreamlike quality to it.
Yeah.
And I would say if it wasn't for the Prince soundtrack, I would also say it was timeless.
mm-hmm.
I mean, Prince is pretty great.
I'm not saying he's not.
Such a good
that-
soundtrack.
Yeah.
That's what pulls you out, though. And if you were rewatching it now, it's like,
True,
this is product of late 80s, early 90s.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What do you guys think about Michael Keaton as Batman here? Because we can also discuss Batman Returns, which came out in 1992 here as well, the sequel to this. Because it's again same actor, same director. I think Tim Burton wrote both movies. Did he?
I think so.
I don't know.
I probably should have done research on that before we had a conversation. But they're both very much Tim Burton movies. It's very much
100%.
So even if he didn't write it, his authorial stamp is on both of them. So yeah. So what are you guys thoughts on this interpretation of the Dark Knight here? We'll start with you, Shenandoah.
I definitely think he's unique in the way that he's not very, like, you think of Batman, I guess, especially at this point, whenever he's like super macho, he's dark, he's a loner, he's just incredibly masculine. And then you have Michael Keaton, who doesn't really embody that. He's not like, he doesn't actively try and be like the strong man. He's very, like the comics, he's very driven by being a detective. He's, he does a lot of his own work. He's kind of bookish and like a little nerdy, and you're like, he's awkward and doesn't really have a lot of social skills, and you're like, this guy, I could see, when people say, oh, I could be Batman, that's the kind of like thing you could see yourself be like, I could be Michael Keaton's Batman because he's just that, he's almost just like an everyday guy versus, billionaire Bruce Wayne. And yeah, I like that he's just his own thing. Like he's very set apart from, like Christian Bale's Batman. He's just his own unique version of the character, I think.
Okay.
I mean, they all are, but I love him.
What about you, Hare?
So, if we're talking about Michael Keaton, I remember there was a lot of hubbub at the time of his casting. He was in comedies before this, so they were like, "Oh, how is he going to be Batman?" But no, I totally agree that once he sort of steps into the role, you kind of see it, and I also really appreciate. I think we move away from this era from the Bruce Wayne story of the Batman, the two parts of it. They focus more sort of on the Batman half than the Bruce Wayne half.
Mhm.
And I think Keaton in his movies does a really good job of playing up both parts. And I like, especially the scene I'm thinking about where he's having dinner with Vicky Vale, and they're at the table and he's sitting there and they're sipping the soup, and like the table's, the length of the TV screen. And, he's like, I don't think I've ever eaten in this room before. And, he's got sort of some of that charm and humor that you saw from the Adam West era, but it's also what sets him apart for me from some of the later iterations of Bruce Wayne that we get.
Yeah, I did want to bring up that Michael Keaton also plays Bruce Wayne, not just Batman, which most of these characters don't necessarily do, and we'll get into them a little bit more in a bit. I also like that, like, as Bruce Wayne, he gets to kind of confront the Joker at one point. Do you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts scene.
Well, yeah, they changed the origin story a little bit to like work the Joker in there. I mean, that had to be pretty touchy at the time too. To pull Jack Napier and make him Joe Chill, basically, and he's the murderer of Bruce's parents.
Yeah, one thing I like about this era of Batman, the Batman half of it, is I don't know how much of this is Tim Burton or how much of this is like technical limitations of the time. So it's well known that he couldn't turn his neck or anything, but he has to do like these big bold movements, and they look really cool. And he's lit very much in shadow, so you can't see a lot of the imperfections with the makeup and stuff. So like he looks really. I think this might be one of the more interesting looking live action Batman. Just in his physicality and just the way he's lit. I think it doesn't sound weird, but it reminds me a little bit of like a Mike Mignola drawing where it's a lot of like heavy darks and shadows.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that adds a lot of like texture that we'll get there later, but like some of the more recent movies, like you just see Batman in like straight up broad daylight and he looks terrible. But we'll save that for when we get to that movie. I have lots of things to say about it.
And I'm a Batmobile guy, so like we can't leave the Keaton era without talking about the Burton mobile and just how classic that iteration of the Batmobile is. I think the best one in my opinion in terms of live action Batmobile.
Oh, for sure.
It's a great Batmobile. We did talk about Batman 66. We didn't talk about all the wonderful vehicles he has in that. That one is my favorite version of the Batmobile. I love the red highlights and stuff. I love the 60s fins and like all the weird gadgets it has. Like, he also gets a helicopter and a boat and a motorcycle. So there's a lot of fun things in that too. But like, yeah, the Michael Keaton one, I think is probably the most interesting design Batman's had, because you don't see a car that looks like that like ever in real life.
Yeah, I feel like the 66 Batmobile is more like Batman bought a car off the lot and painted it and like added some stuff to it. The Burton mobile is like just which is
that is what happened.
But the Burton mobile, it's just, I don't know, it's like only Batman could have that car.
And it was so cool in the movie, like he's just like, stop. And like,
oh yeah.
It's just like
he does have a plane in that one too. It has the corniest scene where he goes up in front of the moon and it's the Batman logo for no reason. But it works because you're kind of bought into, like, it's like we said, it's got kind of like this little bit of a dreamlike logic to it, to this world. Yeah. Like when Batman's just driving around. Yeah, he's driving around the woods and it looks like that scene in Nightmare Before Christmas where like Jack's like finding the doors
yeah.
holidays.
It really does. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't look real, but like it's interesting to look at.
And like even like as Shenandoah was saying, like Tim Burton, especially at this time, like was really good at just making the main characters reflections of himself. And I think like Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne would definitely like, that's what Tim Burton would be if he was a
See that, yeah.
whose parents were murdered, you know, by the Joker who fought. Like he's just like a weirdo.
Yeah.
And
He is weird. I mean, you want to get nuts scene is just a perfect illustration of that.
Yeah, it makes his Batman seem a little unhinged, which
Just a bit.
to be fair, he would be.
Yeah.
And he does murder people in this too. I mean, that's one of
I
those
know.
thing like Batman doesn't cross that line, but in this movie he like blows up, you know, some of the bad guys. The Batmobile has machine guns in it. It's
and like
crosses that line.
and like, yeah,
His plan, he was gonna gun down the Joker during the parade. Like he just missed him. That's all that like didn't just stopped him from killing him. I'm not wild about Batman being a murderer, but like for this movie and its logic, it worked. It's fine. Which it's a bigger problem later in this list. Well, but you know, speaking of later in this list, let's move on to the next theatrical release, which is not the sequel to this movie. Batman Mask of the Phantasm came out a year after Batman Returns in 1993. So this is the Batman the Animated Series origin movie, because you never get his origin in the actual TV show. So it had a limited theatrical release, so we have a reason to discuss it. Arguably the best Batman movie. We'll get into that argument later in the podcast. But what do you guys think of this version of Batman? I guess, you know, we can discuss the animated series at large, but I think this is the best Batman origin story we've gotten. I don't know if you guys feel similarly.
Yeah, I think it works really well. And it's just like kind of like a different and like it's very much jumps between two times, which definitely helps it not feel like an origin movie.
Yeah, so it's
like
good.
Yeah,
and I like that the twist on his origin were like, it's, you know, spoiler alert, where the phantasm, like the main plot he's dealing with in the present is this mysterious phantasm showing up and killing select people from his past, and he needs to figure it out. It's interspersed with Bruce Wayne like kind of working towards becoming Batman, and he's even questioning whether or not he should, because he's falling in love with this woman, and he's potentially seeing a life for himself beyond like essentially grieving for what happened to his parents. Obviously that didn't work out, and he becomes Batman in the end. And again, this one ties the Joker to his origin as well. Which, you know, Mark Hamill's Joker is so good. Yeah, in a way it's really good. It's a lot of it's like surprisingly emotional, especially again because this was like based on a kids show, which I hesitate to, I don't even like calling it a kids show. I think it works for any age. I loved it as a kid. It's one of the things, again, I like it even more as an adult. I think there's only like 2 bad episodes of the entire thing.
There's a lot of this movie that you'll see picked up later, especially in the Nolan trilogy. And so somebody watching it today might think, well, you know, why is this such a highly regarded Batman movie? I mean, these stories have all been told before, whatever. You have to put yourself back in that time. I mean, you know, not many people had read year one, maybe, you know, it kind of had like a second resurgence in like the 2000s. So not many people had seen that story. Not many people had seen a Batman that's questioning whether or not he should be Batman, and, you know, whether or not this is the way it goes. And there's that scene in this one where he's like at his parents' grave and it's raining, and he's like begging them to release him from the oath that he made to be Batman, because he's finally found happiness for himself. And it's just like, that scene is I hate to say well acted because it's animation, but it's so good. And you know, it's one of those things that for its time, you know, you just hadn't seen that side of Batman before, where he wasn't fully into this, you know, and wanting to be that vigilante. And also, speaking of vigilantism, we also play a little bit of that and Batman versus the Gotham PD and those storylines also get picked up in other movies. So this movie did a lot for, I think, the franchise as a whole, and was it's been borrowed from quite a bit too.
Yeah, but you talk about being like quote unquote well acted, even though it's animated. Its animation is astounding.
So good.
Like the show is really
And the
good.
score
Like,
by Shirley Walker.
yeah.
The,
Oh yeah,
the
and it's
music
like,
is I mean,
That theme song alone.
yeah. The show it's based on is great, and this is just that with a budget, so it's even better than what it already like. It took something great and made it even better, and it's yeah. Again, I wish I saw this more when I was younger, but it wasn't something I discovered until like I was a teenager. Something
Oh,
later,
really?
like 2000s.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know about it.
Oh man, I saw it in theaters. It was so intense.
I'm so jealous.
Like,
I would have loved to see it in theaters, especially in 1993.
like
I would have been
like,
2, so not
Yeah.
possible.
yeah, I would have been too young too. But I remember the show, the cartoon
Yeah.
coming on like Kids WB and you know
Mhm.
weekday afternoons and stuff, but not this movie.
Oh man. See, I would have been 7. So I was been the perfect age. I was already
Oh, yeah.
watching the show, and I remember when the show premiered because it was premiered on primetime, and the first episode was about Man Bat. And I kind of had that experience people like in England have with Doctor Who, where you watch it from behind the couch because you're scared, but you can't stop watching it. Oh man, it freaked me out, but I was like so compelling. Again, we're talking about like where you take this really serious. But oh man, I was in I'm in love with this version of Batman. Like it's one of the top tier.
It's great that it's all on HBO Max too. I mean, because
Yeah.
there was a lot of trouble getting it on DVD and Blu-ray, and it was really late coming out. So if you have HBO Max, go check it out.
Yeah, I think we kind of like we're talking about this off camera because I know you were trying to watch some of this stuff in preparation for the thing for the discussion. I think we discovered some of this stuff's not on HBO Max, at least not yet.
I think just 66 is the only one that's not.
Yeah, because I know Fox, I think Fox kind of partially owns it, so it was a long time before it came out on home media as well. Yeah, Mask Phantasm, 10 out of 10 movie, but it's
I'm surprised they haven't used that Phantasm character more. I think it did come back.
Yeah, she's just come back.
Okay.
Yeah, they're currently
Batman and Catwoman.
Yeah, and Batman and Catwoman. Yep. In fact, they're on the
Oh,
cover
wow.
of the issue coming out as of this episode's release next week.
Nice.
Cool. Because I mean, it's brave for the first animated theatrical release, and they use the Joker, yes, but he's kind of like a side character. The Phantasm is really the main villain. To use somebody that's a brand new character was really brave, really bold, and I think they did a great job with it. And it's surprised that she kind of got shelved for so long.
Agreed.
Yeah, especially since the show is also the one that created Harley Quinn. Like it was really good at coming up with original characters that are now iconic. You know, now Harley Quinn's had 2 movies now, so like, and a TV show which I actually enjoy. Go listen to that episode of the podcast.
And to be honest, I kind of like the Bruce and I think her name is Andrea.
Andrea.
Andrea Beaumont. I like that pairing better than Bruce and Selena, which is something they've tried to force, on us ever since. But I just felt like they did a really great job of tying those two together, and I would have liked to see that continue.
Yeah, narratively, she's a really good foil for him. I think that was such an interesting way to tie everything together. And like, it's I think there's so many things about this movie that are just so powerful, like especially for an animated movie. Like you wouldn't expect. The scene that sticks out to me the most is always going to be the scene when he puts on the cowl and the mask for the first time, and Alfred just like gasps because he just comes out of the shadows. It's that iconic moment, like his eyes narrowing in the darkness, and you're like, oh my god, it's freaking Batman! It's just, it's so good. This movie is just incredible.
It's amazing that works because you've already seen him be Batman in the
right.
movie. Yeah.
But you're still like, oh my goodness.
It's the first time like he stares at the mask a little bit before he puts it on. Like like the point of no return,
Yeah, exactly. So good.
Oh man, I kind of want to rewatch that movie now. Maybe we'll do that after this.
And it's shorter than you think. It's like a little over an hour. So
yeah, it's not bad.
It goes down smooth. So we'll go back to live action Batman real quick. The next release was in 1995. We got Batman Forever, the sequel to Batman Returns. They definitely altered course in the middle of this quadrilogy. Not Bruce Tim. Oh my God. Tim Burton is out, and Joel Schumacher's in. Michael Keaton's gone. We have Val Kilmer now. I'm sure some of you guys have more things to say about this version of Batman. Please take the floor. Yeah.
This is okay. I will. I know this movie has its faults, but this was when this came out. I was let's see, seven or 8 years old. So like the target market for this. I mean, all the toys, the gadgets, the campiness. Like how you guys talk about Batman '66 is how I feel about this movie, because like though that campiness, it was good. It was good to me. Like it hit. I loved Jim Carrey as the Riddler. You know, he made me laugh. I was upset when he blew up the Batmobile because, again, I'm a Batmobile guy, and this one had like neon lights on it. I thought it was so cool. You know, so looking back on it now, I could say, oh yeah, that movie had some serious problems. But as a kid, I was super into it. Totally loved it.
What do you think about Val Kilmer? I honestly, he's so forgettable to me. Like I never remember anything he says or does in it. I remember a lot of the other stuff around it, like Jim Carrey and Two-Face and stuff. And even Robin.
It feels like there's bits and pieces of this movie that are missing, and I'm sure a lot of it ended up on the cutting room floor because they tried to do like a subplot with the dichotomy between Bruce Wayne and Batman, and mirroring that with Two-Face and his two personalities. And I think because a lot of that got cut out, Val Kilmer's Bruce Wayne suffers for it, and he's sort of like a blank slate. Like I can't point to one moment like the Michael Keaton dinner scene where you're like, oh, you know, that was a great Bruce Wayne moment. Like he just seems like he's just there to fight the villains, and he gets outshined by Jim Carrey, at least. I don't know. Tommy Lee Jones's performance is kind of all over the place, but I just feel like Val Kilmer's just.
The only thing I remember Val Kilmer says or does is like, it's the car, chicks dig the car. That's the only thing I remember.
I'll get
yeah. That's the only thing I remember. Yeah.
The movie opens with him saying, "I'll get drive-through."
Wasn't that a commercial? I thought that was a commercial. Was that in the movie?
I'm pretty sure they used it as like, I think it was part of a commercial.
I remember it was like a
McDonald's has a huge promotion.
It was,
yeah.
Because they had the glasses, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the collectible cups. Had to go out and get them. Made my poor parents drive me out there to go find them out, and
I remember Batman Forever having a lot of merchandising, like
that was the other part of this era. Was I know that merchandising was pretty big for the Tim Burton movies, but I think they just cranked it up to like 11, and it started seeping into the narrative of the movie where you felt like, okay, that gadget's only in here to sell me a toy. You know, Batman changed his costume. That's just to sell me another action figure. And you start to feel that where there's less of a narrative reason for these things. Like final Riddler sequence with the where he's like in the sequin stuff. It's
the
just
white
like,
costume.
What is that? Like, why? But
I'll say this about Jim Carrey's Riddler. I like that he sort of, you could say he was channeling Frank Gorshin from the 60s.
Yeah, definitely.
Like his costume looks more like some of the costumes he's had.
I can see that kind of. I also think a lot of that is he's how can I say it without giving this podcast an explicit tag?
Yeah.
He's up his own ass.
Yeah.
And as a Two-Face fan, I do have one issue with Two-Face.
Oh, just one?
When he's flipping his... Oh, just one. Oh, well, yeah. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the Harvey side too. But no, there is a scene where he's flipping his coin and he's not happy with the result because he wants to go ahead and kill Bruce. And he just keeps flipping the coin over and over and over again. It's like, no, that is not what Two-Face would do. He would take the first result and, if it's good heads, then he doesn't kill somebody. So... I just want to put that out there because it bothers me every time I watch it.
I also have a problem with his opening scene where he flips the coin as to whether or not he's going to kill that security guard. And then he's like, oh, you get to live. But then he just puts him in a death pit where he's definitely going to die.
Yeah.
It's just I rewatched this. Is not my favorite Batman movie. And I rewatched it this morning to decide whether or not it was going to be at the bottom of my list. And I just found so many problems with it. But we'll get into that.
We'll get into that after the
Yeah.
I think I just have the rose-colored glasses on. That's my problem.
Yeah, and that's fine.
We'll
Well,
say that Joel Schumacher definitely knows a color palette. Like it's
Awesome.
probably like the two movies he did were definitely the most colorful, and for that you're just like, this is kind of fun.
well,
Yeah.
speaking
I'm enjoying
Set
it.
pieces look really good. Like the
Yeah.
apartment building where I'm sorry, I called him the Joker because he is the Joker, but where the Riddler lives,
Yeah.
yeah.
is just so cool looking.
Mhm.
I think the movie looks really.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of colors and having the toys run the narrative, the follow-up to this, Batman and Robin in 1997, they've been very candid, like, oh yeah,
Yes.
we could sell another toy. I kind of love this movie. And I love it in the way that, like, I love things like The Room. Watching this movie is like watching money burn. It's like simultaneously extremely expensive looking and extremely cheap. And it's an experience to behold. I kind of love it. I'm not gonna tell you it's a good movie. It's a terrible movie. It's a reason nobody really likes it, but I will say, to defend it, my one friend B, who's been on the podcast a couple times, this is their favorite Batman movie. I wouldn't go that far. We'll get into that when we get into that a little bit. But yeah, what do you guys think about George Clooney? I think he did a fine job with the material he was given. I know he's apologized for this movie many times. It is not his fault the way it is.
You know, I might get thrown off this podcast for this, but like for me, it's that same level of like silliness as Batman 66. Like if I were to go back and try to watch Batman 66, I'd have to be in that same mindset as watching this movie. And I think that's what they were trying to go for.
I think that's what I'm responding to. However, I do think Batman 66 like was legitimately trying to be a comedy. I think this was just being dumb. And it happens to be funny because it's a dumb movie. Like I like I said, I enjoy it in the way I enjoy like crappy B movies. Where like I don't think I'm so much laughing with the movie. Do you know what I mean? Except for Uma Thurman, I feel like she's the only one that really knows what movie she's in and is giving an appropriate performance.
100%.
I agree. It's very. I think it channels. I think it's more intentional than you think, Scott.
I mean, I do think there is an intention for it, but like I don't think it's going. It's not doing it in the same way that the '60s one is. Does it make any sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely is going about it in a different way. But
It was definitely like a 90s comedy. Like the way that it's set up, like that's a very different sense of humor than the 60s. Like this, but I mean, this was very like, you know, Jim Carrey-esque is the best I can even, because, you know, he just had that unique sense of humor. And I feel like that was just all of Schumacher's work with the two Batman movies. I will say that this was definitely, for me, my nostalgia movie, because first of all, I wanted to be Uma Thurman. her Poison Ivy was just like everything to me. I had like a huge poster on the back of my wall. I wanted all of the merchandise. And of course, then there was Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl, which now I'm like, oh my God, what was that?
It's so cringy to watch now.
I know. Uncle Alfred, you're just like, oh Lord.
Oh, God.
not good.
And then she disappears for an hour after she accidentally stumbles across her Batgirl stuff. Yeah, it's like
and I do have to say the Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze too, like that inspired casting for sure. And I like that they incorporated some of the animated series Mr. Freeze, that tragic backstory with his wife. But then, you know, it's kind of buried under all the ice puns and the ice capade, you know, the fighting on the skates and all that. So the crazy plot of the movie to, you know, use that giant telescope ice cannon thing. I think Schwarzenegger could have been a great Mr. Freeze, and like that, there would have been a really, really good story in there.
You know what? I think he would do a better Mr. Freeze now than he would have done back then. Because I've seen him try to do like, did you watch? Oh God, I can't remember what it's called. Where he has like his daughter's a zombie, but like he doesn't talk a lot in it, and it's mostly like he acts with like he's got kind of like this more weathered, like world weary presence now. I think a more quiet, like contemplative Mr. Freeze might be really interesting. Like with Arnold now, like not. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love every word he says has something to do with ice or being cold, but like going the hard opposite direction. Like I think that might legitimately be interesting. And I'm gonna give the movie a little bit of credit here when he's like thrown in jail. To make him, they do make an effort to make him seem like kind of withered and small, like because he's wearing like these oversized jail clothes and like he's shot very differently, but like he just looks like a little kid because Arnold's, physically huge and just looks like he's wearing big clothes. But I do think that they're trying to do something like that to make him look like physically weak. Although I will say in that scene, there's a nice callback where they show like the costumes from the villains from the previous movie, like in the, in like lockup and stuff.
Yeah, that's what when we called these like a set of four, and I don't know,
it's really like kind of two sets of two, but they're always packaged together as like the 90s Batman movies,
Well, because you do have the continuity with Alfred.
Yes.
I forget the actor's name.
Michael Gough.
Michael Gough, and also the
Gordon.
Gordon, but I can't remember the guy's name. Pat something Hinkle, maybe something like that.
I think Pat Hinkle's his name.
Those two are the same in all four movies.
But we have
a little bit of continuity.
But we have vastly different Harvey Dents.
Vastly different Harvey Dents, and again, that's a storyline that like just got dropped, and there was an ugly contract battle between Billy D. Williams and the studio, and he was promised this meteor role later on, and they just kind of dropped it for time.
What a waste. I'm always upset about that. I can't.
He ended up making out pretty well financially.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because they had to buy him out, right?
Yeah. Well, I think he's still like he made the money he would have made had he been in the movie.
Yeah, and I think the story goes that the Shrek character from Batman Returns, or the Shrek character, the Christopher Walken's character, would have been Harvey Dent in that movie, and then when he gets electrocuted at the end, that's what would have triggered the Two-Face transformation. I think I read that somewhere.
No, I think you're right about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Batman and Robin kind of put the series on ice for a couple of years, so we went 8 years without a cinematic Batman, which seems unheard of these days. It wasn't until Batman Begins in 2005 that we again, we're going from the 60s to the 89 one, where they kind of course corrected in the other direction from going silly back to being like dark and brooding. I remember I loved this movie at the time. You talk about like, I think the movie's most interesting when it's pre-Batman, and it's about Bruce Wayne. I think this is one of the better Bruce Wayne movies, if I'm being honest with you. I think once he becomes Batman, it kind of becomes your standard superhero. The bad guy's gonna spill gas across the city. Like, not that it's bad, but I think it's more interesting. Like, I love the part where the guy who killed Bruce's parents is finally on trial, and he brings a gun and is going to murder him and is stopped from doing that. Like, that's such a great character moment. And then from there, he goes on his training to become Batman. That's one of my favorite. Like I said, the first half of this is probably one of my favorite Batman movies. And then, not that I dislike the second half, but like, it's not as much as it doesn't live up as much as the first half, in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with me on that.
Well, for me, I'm kind of the opposite. I like the Batman stuff more than the Bruce Wayne training stuff, but I think I have to go back and watch it because it might have been just a product of the time. I just wanted a Batman movie, and he was spending so much time being mopey and sad and doing all the training stuff. The other thing I think is really interesting about this is we had a villain twist that I don't think we've seen since like until Iron Man 3. It reminds me a lot of Iron Man 3, where like you have Ra's al Ghul is a famous Batman villain. It's an essential part of his origin story, and they kind of pull a bait and switch where they set up this character Ducard, who's played by Liam Neeson, and he's just he just gets switched at the end, and he really was Roz the whole time. And I'd be interested to hear what the reaction was to that, because I know when they tried to do it with Iron Man, it did not go over as well.
I'll be honest with you, I loved it in Iron Man. I like when you use my comic knowledge against me in like an interesting way. I definitely get why people did not like that. I remember at the time, I remember being like, oh yeah, of course he was, because it's Liam Neeson. Like, I remember not being like, oh, like floored or anything by that. Not that I disliked it. I want to, I didn't, I thought it was fine, but I remember not being like shocked. See, this one came out in 2005, so I'm in college now. Like, we're out of high school. So I'm an adult. This is my first adult Batman movie. So I don't know. I did really enjoy it though. I think I saw it in theaters like twice, 2 or 3 times.
We see it together.
I think we saw it. We must have seen it together. I think our whole friend group went and saw it.
Yeah, I think we had to.
Yeah.
I really I don't want to say I like loved or even like liked the bait and switch in this movie. But I was definitely okay with it.
Yeah, it didn't bother me, but I
like this
wasn't
movie
like
a lot.
shocked. Yeah.
There's a bait and switch coming up that
Is different, yeah.
really but this movie I think is it's really cool. I liked that we got into the Bruce Wayne side of the origin. Helps it make sense that this guy can do all these like things. It's like, oh, you're trained by these ninjas. Cool.
Oh, you got R&D at your high-tech, company you own, making like military stuff, and you just kind of alter it for Batman. I like that he has to order everything in bulk, so it doesn't, and then he assembles it himself, so it doesn't seem like, oh, why did I order like 500 helmets that look like a bat? Yeah, that's something like he was more interesting until he became Batman, because I really liked like that stuff in it, and then he becomes Batman. Not that it's bad, but it's not, to me, it's not as interesting. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining
voice.
It right. Oh yeah, I mean the voice is the worst.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, about this trilogy of Batman movies, which overall I do really enjoy, but like that voice is really bad, and it's a choice. Like they did that on purpose. Like I know they mix like bear growls and stuff into it, like in post and things. I'm like, oh, it's really bad. Like scenes that otherwise would have been really
I do
good,
want to
like
give a shout out.
Yeah, like the swear to me part would have been a really good scene. It wasn't that voice?
Yeah, it pulls you out of it.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Michael Caine's Alfred, because up until this point, Alfred really hasn't had that much to do in these movies other than kind of bring Bruce dinner or patch him up a little bit. And here I feel like he's really serving that mentor role. He's kind of trying his best to talk Bruce out of doing this and putting his life on this path. And you kind of get that mentorship, that surrogate father relationship between the two of them. And I think Michael Caine does a great job in bringing that to this trilogy.
Yeah, he's more or less like his crime fighting partner in these movies. Like not so much, running out and punching dudes, but he's the guy in the chair. I guess he also has Lucius Fox too, but that's more in the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, I like Batman Begins. I don't have a tremendous amount to say about it. I think if we guys want, we can get into the sequel, which I think has a lot more interesting stuff to say.
Let's do it.
So 2008, The Dark Knight comes out, the sequel to this. So we finally get this version of Batman. We don't have to have an origin. We've gone back to the Joker. I remember in the lead up to it, so it's like Heath Ledger. I guess it was the same experience people had with Michael Keaton, where it's like the guy from like Knight's Tale and stuff is going to be the Joker. So I remember seeing like his look. I'm like, the scars are weird, but like I was kind of digging the look of the movie going up into it, and had that really interesting marketing. I like that they were like having Harvey Dent be like a real character, like one of the main characters in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're going to probably set up him turning into Two-Face, but like I like, because they did it in the animated series where you got to know Harvey Dent for a while before he was the villain, and that makes the villain transition so much more like impactful and sad. I love this movie. We first kind of, I think you saw it with us when we went and saw it on IMAX opening night.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. I saw it in theater no lie, like 8 times over the course.
Oh wow.
Because I kept finding someone who hadn't seen it, and I was just like, let's just go watch the movie. I was so into this. The only negative thing I'll say about it is seeing it like a dozen times is like it's long, and after you've seen it so many times, you feel the length. But I think it's great. I think it's one of the better Batman Joker dynamics. I'm notoriously not a big fan of the Joker, but like I love this version of the character. The action scenes between them is so good that where he's riding around on his motorcycle, they flip the truck. It's like, oh man, I like that these movies are also like the Batman Begins has some of this too, where like Batman's more of like he's trying to become more of a symbol and be more of an inspiration rather than just like I'm gonna punch all of the bad guys until there's no more crime. But I like that Joker's kind of like a natural like counterbalance to that's come out of this, and like he's kind of the shark from Jaws. You never really know when he's going to show up, and when he does, like something bad's happening. But like you can't. But you're like as an audience member, like you got that dread where like he can show up at any point, and then you're waiting, you're anticipating it. I love that they updated the suit so he can actually turn his head. So like he's able to be a little bit more physically like he's got a lot more range of motion as Batman. But I just love that where it's more of an ideological battle between the two, and sort of for the soul of Harvey Dent in a little bit of a way. But I love that they also like adapted a lot of Long Halloween, which is my favorite Batman story, into this. I don't know. Anyone else wants to take over about The Dark Knight? I can just go on for like 20 more minutes about it. Wants to jump in, feel free. If you want to take over for a little bit, Shenandoah, I know you have some stuff to say about it.
Oh God. Well, I honestly, of the three, of course, this is my favorite. I really love the Bruce Wayne aspect of this movie, because he does. Again, going back to what I had said, I guess like about Keaton's, I really love seeing him do the detective work. I love him, analyzing crime scenes and really picking the scenes apart, and like the scene he has with Alfred when they're kind of in the bunker, because I guess he doesn't really have the mansion right now, so when they're in their little makeshift cave, when they're analyzing the bullet, like it's just little things like that I love. But overall, there's so many things to love about this movie. From the score to every performance, everybody just hits the mark. Like there's no doubt about the movie that you're watching. Like, there's no twists, which is fine. I did like the twist, by the way, in the first one, but you see these relationships unfold. Like you see Harvey and Bruce so clearly, you see the Joker and Batman so clearly. Like everything is just so meticulous and well put together. I love it. Like I honestly think it's one of the best Batman movies ever, if not the best. But
it's
phenomenal.
definitely a contender for best comic book movie of all time, not just Batman.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I don't know if you guys got any thoughts about The Dark Knight.
Go ahead, Harry.
I'll set the stage. I remember that summer, and when this movie came out, people were talking about just how it blew everybody away, and it was really, really great. And I was on vacation at the time in Disney World, and so I didn't get to go like opening night. So I begged my parents to use up one of our vacation days to take me to the movie theater to go watch this. And the jarring experience of being at the happiest place on earth, then watching this movie, and then going back. So my parents were picking me up, and they're like, "So how was it?" And like I had like a blank expression on my face, and I was just like, I've just got to I've got to digest this for at least 3 more days. Let Mickey talk me out off this ledge or something. So that's what I was going through. But
yeah, we saw it at midnight in the IMAX in the Tropicana. So we didn't get out of there till like 3 a.m.
Ooh.
I think I saw the sun come up because I was so excited. And I love it so much.
Yeah, and it's just everything from this was what made me so excited at the end of Batman Begins. Now with the origin out of the way, we can just hit the ground running from the beginning, and this movie does that, and you don't need to know anything else. It starts off with, actually wraps up some of the Scarecrow stuff from Batman Begins, which is really cool. And you get some of the like copycat imitator stuff, which we haven't really seen before, and it makes sense for this universe because they were trying to ground everything, and people would try to put on hockey pads and go be Batman, and so I'm glad they addressed that. And just everything from like Shenandoah said, the score, when you first see the Joker and that weird like off-putting music, like that twinge happens every time he comes on the screen, it really sets your whole body on edge.
It's like the Jaws theme, the dun
yeah. This, like, I just can't say enough, just being able to see Batman sort of like at his height, and just going and taking down these guys, and putting the detective work together, and getting to see the origin of Two-Face. I was very surprised that they saw that story all the way through. I don't think that was the original plan, but it was something I wasn't expecting while I was watching it. I remember thinking like, oh, okay, we are getting the origin of Two-Face, but he'll probably be the next movie. And like they ended up wrapping that whole story up right there in the movie. I wish maybe they spread that out a little bit more, but I think they had other plans that got dashed with Heath Ledger's passing, and probably there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. But it's just, there's a scene where I think the Joker is hitting, like he's putting a hit on the judge, the mayor, like they're three different people all at once. And it reminds me of The Godfather, where there's like the baptism scene in The Godfather, where it's a very similar sequence where, that's happening. And it's just that moment there elevated it from, okay, these are more than just like comic book movies now. This is like art. This is fantastic. These are just great movies. So I just, Dark Knight, I can't speak highly enough about it, and my only criticism is I wish we had more Two-Face. That's it. But that's me being a Two-Face guy. So
that's his story feels a little rushed at the end. That is a criticism I can levy at the movie. It does not hinder my experience watching it. In my opinion, the Batman voice is still the worst part of it. It's always the worst part of these movies. Like the part where he's at the end, where he's like talking to Joker, like, "Oh, the city just showed you, still believes you," or whatever that line is. It's so awful and bad. Which otherwise, I really like that movie. Yeah, it's the heart of the movie, and it's like, but like talk about the artistry of that scene, because like Joker's hanging upside down, but like you're seeing him, like the camera's right side up, but like he's upside down, so his hair's hanging up. Like the camera keeps moving around between the two of them. It's like really cool. Like, oh God, it's
just such a shame that that's the end of that character.
Oh yeah.
I think I wish I could have seen the movie that was planned after this. If it weren't for Heath Ledger's passing.
Yeah, that was the thing that went into the movie, because he died before the movie was released. So that was kind of one of the things everyone was talking about, like how good his experience is, and like, oh no, because he got a posthumous Oscar for it, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because comic book movies don't ever do anything other than like special effects and maybe score at award ceremonies. Not that I put a lot of stake in the Oscars and that stuff, but it's just
how crazy was 2008 for movies, for comic book movies. That's where Iron Man and Dark Knight, we got them both in the same year, and that's just incredible.
Yeah, and like Harry, I know you're an Iron Man guy. I do think the Dark Knight's a much better movie than Iron Man, but Iron Man kicking off the MCU is more of its, I think, more of its legacy than it. I like Iron Man, don't get me wrong, but I think that's a bigger legacy for it than it being a good movie. Granted, I think that kicked off the summer movie season, and then Dark Knight, I think, closed it out. Or was
Iron Man was May, Dark Knight was like July.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it wasn't a bad summer with those two movies, but I remember Dark Knight made me kind of forget about Iron Man for a little bit. I was so to be fair, I'm a bigger Batman fan than I ever was for Iron Man. So maybe that just hits me differently. I do really like Iron Man. I loved it at the time too. I have not watched it in a while.
All right, when you do your MCU podcast, I
I
want
was just about to say we should do an MCU like rewatch podcast where I probably will skim
Maybe a
most of the
phase
movies.
one.
Yeah, we'll talk about. I don't want to rewatch all of them.
No.
But yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about, at least in phase one, because I think that's the phase where it has the most mixed bag group of movies. We'll talk about.
we'll
I'll
talk
plan-
about
Get
it.
on the MCU.
We'll do an MCU
Kendall,
podcast in like a month or so.
Kendall, I cut you off before you could talk about Dark Knight. So do you want to jump in?
So it's probably the smartest Batman movie. It's probably like it doesn't sit as my favorite, but I think it is the best Batman movie for sure. The movie is so like smart in every way. Joker is like always threatening, while still being like funny. Like the second time he does the like, do you know how I got these scars things? Like it's like, oh he's saying a different story. Like is that scene where he like, you know,
pencil
shoves
scene.
the guy's
The magic
like,
trick.
head with the pencil. Yeah, the magic
Oh
trick.
man, that one freaked me out when it happened.
Yeah, it was just like, whoa.
Whoa, yeah, like yeah, it was also like the first time you're really meeting the Joker. I know he was in the heist before, but like you just find out at the very end that one of the guys actually was the Joker, not just his henchman. And that's the first time like he kind of really introduces himself, not just to the mob bosses and that, but like to the audience as well. And that's how it starts
really
off.
smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart writing, because from then on you don't know whether you can't trust this guy, you don't know what he's going to do, and it just kind of like sets him apart from every other version of the Joker that you know, because of the violence.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like he's like, it's him and the Hamill Joker are like vying for that top spot because they're just both so threatening, but also like still embellishing the spirit of the Joker in that, like, he's this goofball, like,
but you could still call them the clown prince of crime.
Yeah,
but like I wouldn't call Jack Nicholson that. He's more of just like mobster that looks like a clown. Do you know what I mean? That's how I feel about him in that movie.
Yeah. Exactly.
It reminds me of what DC just tried to do with the three Jokers concept, where they had the clown, the criminal, and what was it, like the jester or something,
the psychopath or whatever.
But it was like three different distinct Jokers, and you could probably put the three that we've talked about, in those different categories.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But he calls himself like an agent of chaos, and like when he said that like I was like, oh, that is what the Joker is.
Yes. I'm notoriously not a Joker person, but like this portrayal of this character is probably my favorite Batman villain. Do you know what I mean?
And it was so cool because they set this up at the end of Batman Begins too. So they wrote themselves into this corner where like, the fans were probably looking forward to it, with the playing card at the end of Batman Begins. And, they had to deliver on that promise.
You know what? I disagree, because I remember people were saying like, oh, they have to do the Joker next. I was like, at the time with Batman Begins, I was like, you know what? I think that's just a fun nod. They can do whatever they want. I was like, for all I know, they'll make, Johnny Depp the Riddler or something in the next movie. Like they
I don't know. I feel like people would have thrown a fit if they went
they
and swerved.
do the Joker, like
after that tease.
I'm glad we got the movie we did. It's my favorite serious Batman movie. But I remember at the time I was like, that's not a guarantee. We don't have to get that movie. It doesn't have to be that. But all right, before we talk about The Dark Knight for another hour, let's move on to its sequel, The Dark Knight Rises. Happened 4 years later in 2012. I guess a little bit of a disappointing follow-up. I don't dislike this movie, but I definitely get why people don't like it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any way that they could have like filled the Joker's shoes in this. I think Bane was at least mildly interesting, the changes they made to him. I don't think the twist in this one worked. I do like how they, by the end of the, because this is like years later, you know, Bruce Wayne's like body is all broken and battered from being Batman for so long. I like that the city's like outlawed him as a result of him taking the fall for Harvey Dent's actions as Two-Face. Again, because they go back to the symbology things, like they needed to have him be the symbol of like the good man. Like, whereas Batman is like a horrible vigilante, like nobody should try to be him, which people were trying to be him and getting killed in the beginning of the movie. I don't know. I think we so rarely get a trilogy that's satisfying. I felt as this was a satisfying conclusion to this interpretation of Batman. Yes, this movie's got a lot of problems. It's nowhere near as good as the other two, and for the most part. But that's my opinion in a nutshell on Dark Knight Rises. I don't know if you guys feel differently. I know some people that absolutely hate this movie. I don't hate it. I just don't like it as much as the other two.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, it's one of the things that I will speak highly about this movie is the studio allowed Batman to sort of have his moment to ride off into the sunset and retire. And I think that was kind of brave for them to put a cap on this trilogy and basically say, you know, he's done and this is it. And, you know, he gets old and he's hurting and his leg hurts after he has battles now because he's older. We never really saw much of that. You know, we always saw Batman as sort of this indestructible being, and to see the human toll that this has taken on this character was kind of interesting to me. It kind of, when you try to piece together the timeline of this version of Batman, you're like, wow, he really didn't have that much of a crime fighting career. But I think that element of the story and kind of seeing the natural conclusion of this trilogy and what it would do to Bruce Wayne / Batman, I think is for me the highlight of the whole thing. The other thing I tip my hat to is sort of the scale of this movie is much bigger. You get to see more areas of Gotham. You get to see the tunnels, the stadium, the bridges, and all that, and it just makes it feel more like a living, breathing city than just like a set piece. So I kind of liked that part of it too. But I don't know, the whole thing at the end with Talia, it just kind of that throws me out of the movie. Every time it happens, I'm like, please, like, you're doing fine with Bane, like that, just stick with that. And I just, that last like maybe 20 minutes of the movie just feels so tacked on and forced and unnecessary that it kind of throws off the
I should like
parts.
I should like that scene more because it's the second time Batman's trying to get rid of a bomb and he just can't. So I should like it more than I do, but yeah, I do think it was very bold that they let this version of Batman have a conclusion, because this is when the MCU was like, was this year the year Avengers came out, or was it coming out? It might have come out the next year.
No, 2012 is when.
Yeah, I thought it was 2012. Yeah, so like this is when the MCU is like paying dividends. Like obviously this movie was in production before that was released, but you know, like to be fair, they did set it up with like, you know, the Gordon Joseph Levitt character, whatever his name is, Robin.
John Blake.
Yeah,
in the beginning.
Yeah, and it's revealed his name's Robin. Oh no, like, but it's set up like Batman left him the keys to like the Batman stuff, so it's implied that there will always, like, it's just going to be a legacy thing, because it doesn't matter, you know, the man. It matters the character. That's what Batman represents. You know, which again isn't a tying narrative throughout the whole trilogy. So you know, this is the movie that should have been called Batman Forever then. But yeah, there's a lot of plot holes and stuff, but like, it doesn't bother me as much. It works a little bit on more comic book logic than the other two, especially since these ones are supposed to be like more realistic, like, and grounded in reality, which makes them interesting and stand out in their own way. But yeah, I don't like I said, I like it. Like I said, to me, it's a satisfying conclusion. It's not the best movie It's not the worst. We've already had like much worse Batman movies, and we're about to get even worse Batman movies.
Oh no.
Again, I don't want to tip my hand too much with the movies I like versus the ones I don't. But yeah, so unless you guys got any other thoughts on Dark Knight Rises, we'll move on to the next one. So yeah, the next movie I was gonna bring up is wildly different from all of them. The Lego Movie in 2014. Unexpectedly, like Batman's one of the main characters in it. He's played by Will Arnett, so obviously it's CG animated, so everything looks like it's made out of Lego. It's funny, years ago I was watching Arrested Development with my dad, and Will Arnett's in it, and my dad would always say whenever he's talking, he's like, this guy sounds like Batman. And then of course he becomes Batman eventually. I like that this Batman's kind of an arrogant jerk and like believes his own hype. He almost seems like a Batman fanboy in real life, but as Batman. And I think that's an interesting take for the character. To be fair to this discussion, I was not wild about this movie until this movie's twist, where it's revealed that the movie actually is a kid playing with Legos. And I'm like, oh, it makes you rewatch the rest of the movie in like a new light, like go back and look at it and like, okay, so like I don't know, it made it much more creative and fun to me, which is appropriate for a Lego movie. I don't know. It's a really good movie. Not my favorite use of the character. But I don't know if you guys have a lot you want to say about the Lego Movie. Well, I'll have more to say about this version of the character later.
I think it's the best non-Batman movie with Batman in it.
Yeah,
It's not that
I would agree.
I wouldn't. It's hard to argue about that.
I like it a lot. I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's a
I
great.
think the song's a little annoying, but like you said, in context,
Yeah,
it all works.
yeah, because a lot of it was to me. It moved the pacing in it is really fast and like it feels it's on a sugar rush. But once you realize it's a kid playing with toys, I'm like, oh, because that's how I kind of had similar experiences playing with Lego as a kid. Like, I don't know, it's a great family movie because kids will enjoy it on the level, but like it made me weirdly nostalgic. Like when they bring in like the old spaceman and his helmet's cracked in the one part where it always breaks, like that's when my spacemans were broken. I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. I really like that. I appreciate the lengths they go to in the movie to make every frame like built out of Legos, even though they did it in a computer. And like that's something they continue into the sequels for this movie.
Yeah, and I think there's a great
Bruce Wayne joke in this one too, where he's like, Batman, or I've never heard of him. He sounds really cool though.
Yeah,
he's like trying to throw him off. And it's like, oh, that's great. Like,
I know there's a part where they're doing like a heist plan, and he's just like, oh, get this guy Bruce Wayne to show up and do this thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and then in the thing is like, yeah, well, I think he then like hypes up Batman as Bruce Wayne in like the montage.
He shows up at the board meeting and he's Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Business.
Yeah. Lego Movie's great. I hope that one's on HBO Max too. But yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah, this is one of the better Batman movies to watch as a family. Especially if you've got like little kids, I think it's a lot of fun. I guess it does its job because it makes you want to go out and buy Legos then. Which I think, since this movie is essentially a glorified commercial, the fact that it's even half decent, not alone like it's a legitimately great movie,
it's funny because like the message of the movie, not to like take it too far out, is like that you should be creative and build like whatever you want and like don't follow the instructions to a T, but like every Lego set is like, here is this ship from Star Wars that you must build in this way. So I like that they kind of like went back to when you were a kid and encouraging that imagination. And
yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, Lego's lots of fun. But the movie that came out after this is the antithesis. But all right, so it's Batman's introduction to the DC extended universe or whatever it's called, with Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice in 2016. Finally, Batman and Superman are in a movie together, and it's boring and bad. And it's the worst version of both characters. I don't want to, I guess I don't want to editorialize too much, but it sucks. Kendall, you were just rewatching it right as we started recording this.
It wasn't
no.
a rewatch.
Yeah.
That was me watching it for the first time.
Oh.
You went to the before.
Oh no.
Fresh
Well,
reactions.
Yeah. So what's your fresh reaction on that?
All right. Hot take. I think the opening scene of the movie is great. It's the best part.
The part where it's the end of Man of Steel?
Yes. And it's just like puts you in a place because that movie was just like, oh, like when it ended, I was not excited for Man of Steel, the whole like build up to it.
Mhm.
I was like, I don't want like the Christopher Nolan take of every single DC superhero. And especially DC. Like I want those characters to be fun.
Yeah, that's what makes DC great, in my opinion. Is it?
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the
Goofy.
Nolan movies. They kicked off this dark and gritty reboot thing.
Yes.
You know, from the early 2000s on, we've still been kind of stuck in that.
It can work with Batman, but like it can't work with Superman. His concept, he's a dude that flies. He comes from space. Like he's an inherently goofy thing, and like other than Batman, and I would say Batman's also goofy too. Like the concept of him, but like you can do him serious because he is a normal person, even though he's super wealthy. But like like the Flash, are we gonna have him brood and be like, I can't outrun my problems? Like it doesn't work with DC characters, and I think Zack Snyder is also, in my opinion, a terrible filmmaker, a terrible storyteller. Like he fundamentally, in my opinion, fundamentally does not understand these characters. And was the wrong person to put in charge of like shaping their cinematic universe. So I'm super not excited for the Snyder Cut coming out.
Well, and I was going to say there is a very vocal part of the DC fan base that does want that vision of the characters for all of them. And so you kind of have this weird split where you have people that, maybe they grew up on the animated series, which was dark, but it still had light moments. Maybe they grew up on Batman 66 and they want something more in that regard. But like the people who grew up in this mid 2000s and on the Nolan trilogy and now the Snyder stuff, like they are hardcore champions for the Snyder Cut and like this version of Batman.
I hate this. All right, so we'll talk about this interpretation of Batman. Oh, Kendall, were you still giving fresh opinions though? I do want to hear.
I was, but it's okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a lot of opinions on this series.
Oh, I have so many. I think so one thing that I remember being like real controversial was this movie's take on Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Which I think could be, I don't know. It's not the worst idea to have him be like this, like, like he's played by the actor who played Mark Zuckerberg.
Like that's as a concept, like having him be like a modern CEO, like Zuckerberg or Bezos type.
But he's like acting like he's like on speed all the time. Just, like,
everything he says doesn't make any sense. Like, what's his motivation? Something about God, something nebulous, like nonsense.
Yeah, God, and like it's like whatever.
He's like, my dad beat me, so I want to kill Superman. Because he's like the ultimate dad, or something. I don't understand. I love Lex Luthor, and the idea of Lex Luthor being the bad guy in a Batman v Superman is great. Like movie is so great because he works as both a foil to both of them. With Batman, he's a rich, super intelligent, like billionaire inventor type, but he doesn't have Batman's moral compass. And then for Superman, he's like the ultimate self-made millionaire, like the ultimate thing of what man can do versus like brains versus brawn kind of thing. And like Superman's natural gifts, like Lex Luthor had to earn what he has. And I think together, like they could, I think it could have been so great, and it's just bad. Like again, I need to know what at least a little bit of what my villain's motivation is to like care about him.
And it's a smart concept too, to have him sort of be the one to set Bruce on the path to want to do something about the Superman problem, because, we do see in other DC media, Batman has contingency plans for how to defeat all the other superheroes, and like that gets him into trouble with them. And so this isn't like out there story wise. It's just the execution it leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, and the movie's it's bloated, it's overlong, it's got weight. Like, what's the point of Doomsday? Like, what was Lex Luthor's plan? It's like, I don't think Batman can legitimately kill him, but if he does, I have this unstoppable monster that nobody can like, that is
Pretty
uncontrollable.
much, yeah.
But fortunately, it only went into the places that doesn't have a population right now, so nobody died. Because unlike the end of Man versus Steel, which was like 9/11s at once, that Superman was actively participating in. Like, oh god, I really don't like it. Which stinks is like, all right, I think in another world, an older Bruce Wayne that's like more like tired and like beat down, like played by Ben Affleck, would work. I don't think that it's inherently what they were trying to do with Batman, and this is inherently bad. I don't want to see him gun down like a million henchmen and like flip cars into each other for a scene that's ultimately pointless. That he then goes and steals the kryptonite off screen anyway. I don't know. Like, the whole movie is just like dark and miserable, and then it's like unintentionally like schlocky and stupid when they actually fight each other. Like, Batman swinging Superman around into like sinks and stuff. I think he beats him with a toilet at one point.
Yeah, he does.
Like,
or something. Yeah.
I don't know.
And, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I think one of the biggest things that I enjoy is his fighting style. It's very reminiscent of the Arkham games, which I know we're not talking about the video games, but seeing that style and seeing him move so quickly and like in a way that I've always kind of hoped to see on the big screen, that I think for me was the most enjoyable. Like, he's like coming down from the ceiling and he's moving quickly and ridiculously, and you're like, oh my god,
he comes busting through walls and stuff.
Yeah, he's like busting through the wall. It's like, oh man. I think that to me was probably my favorite thing about his Batman. Just seeing that fighting style kind of out there was pretty cool. But other than that,
Yeah, that's why I think, like, in another world, like, where I think it could work better for me. Like, Batman's the best part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's controversial. I think most people think that. I just don't like him actively just murdering people left, right, and center, especially since Superman already is doing that. Because you want them to like contrast with each other, which, like, I think if we had not necessarily like Christopher Reeve's Superman, but a Superman that is slightly more comic accurate, where like he's hopeful and not just like miserable and depressed.
Yeah.
And, like, he like feels like he begrudgingly is saving people. Like, he doesn't want to be doing that. He's just like going through the motions in that one montage. Like, I don't get why they build statues to him in this world. Like, he destroyed their city in the first movie when they first meet him. I don't know.
And Henry Cavill isn't a bad choice.
No, he's not.
It's just a bad movie.
It's just a bad take of him on the character.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't want to dominate the conversation any more than I already am. So if you guys got stuff you want to say about BVS, let me know.
I mean, I think
you do have to point out that, like, what else was going on in the comic movie universe at this time. Like, DC saw Marvel. This was 2016, so Avengers: Age of Ultron had just come out. So like we're into like phase 2, starting phase 3, and you can tell that DC felt like they were falling behind. And oh my god, like, we got to get our universe going. Like, let's do it right now. So in this movie, they started just throwing things in. Not only is this the introduction of this version of Batman, but this is also the introduction of Wonder Woman, who comes in like at the very end. And it's like, what is she doing here?
Yeah, what's she even doing?
And, like, they're just trying to throw everything together so that they can get their version of the Avengers on the screen as fast as possible. And you can feel that, like, as you're watching the movie, you can tell that this is all very rushed. And it makes a worse movie because of it.
Yeah.
It does that thing that I hate when two heroes are fighting, and like all Superman needs to do is just be like, here's what's up. It's like, he's like, hey, wait a minute. And then he gets like hit and he's like, there's no time. Just like, fucking tell. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
Tell him what's going on.
No communication at all.
Yeah, if he's just like, hey, Lex Luthor kidnapped my mom and is making us fight each other. He's manipulating you this whole time.
Yeah.
Also,
Just
like,
there's no time.
yeah. Also, like, why did he fall for Batman's super obvious traps right in the beginning?
Who knows?
I liked
Points.
I liked Batman's like anti-Superman suit. I thought that looked cool.
Little what was it?
The Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns, yeah. Frank
Yeah.
Miller.
I don't like the Dark Knight Returns, but I thought the suit looked cool.
I also and like I'm sure the wrong person listens to this, but they're gonna leave nasty.
That very vocal, I told you, that very vocal group.
I
We're not
do.
gonna like what's the
The
next
Snyder
movie.
stands.
Yeah.
I have a big problem with this movie's portrayal of Black people. Like and people are going to be like, oh well, like the Secretary of Defense is a Black guy, and the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet's a Black guy, but like literally everyone else is portrayed as an animal and not like a person. It's like the movie opens in Africa and you're hanging with these like ruthless warlord and his like militia, and it's just like like what the heck. And then like the normal people in the city are like, oh hey, we're just white people, and then like the next time you see like Black people, it's like in a jail cell and they're just shanking people for being branded by. I don't even understand what that was all about.
No, I don't get it either.
They're just like, oh, he's branded with the bat symbol, we're just gonna kill him. It's just like, awful movie. Just like,
see, I haven't seen it since theaters. So when you told me like in text beforehand, I was like, I think this movie is extremely racist. I was like, I don't even remember any Black people in it. Yeah, other than ironically Perry White.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the next. I'm not counting Suicide Squad because Batman's more of a glorified cameo in that, but the next one of these we got that has Batman as a main character is Justice League in 2017. Arguably an even worse movie. I think at least Batman v Superman's like trying to say something. Justice League is the most boring thing I've ever watched, but at least you got Cyborg, Kendall.
I did not see this movie.
Yeah, so.
I do think it was an interesting choice to have Batman be sort of the Nick Fury assembling the team. And I mean that's a large part of the movie is just getting everyone together, because again, DC didn't take the time to set these characters up in their own movies, so they're doing it all in this one.
On that point though, I think DC could have gotten away with starting a Justice League movie because you don't need to set up Batman, you don't need to set up Superman. Like
right.
There's such other than the in opposition to the Avengers, where like people might know who the Hulk is, but like don't know who Captain America, like might need a Captain America or Iron Man refresher. Like I think they were in a unique position where they could have just started with the Justice League, maybe have like Flash be your point of origin character, your point of entry character or something, where like the movie's kind of got like, I run really fast and I got a letter like, oh, I'm gonna join the Justice League or something. Like I think you could have got away with that without doing this weird half and half way that they did.
And just to me, it was
Weird because my version, the Batman that I'm most familiar with, is the DC animated universe version. And if I remember correctly, he was like the most anti-Justice League member. I mean, he didn't believe in the organization at all, didn't really want to be a part of it.
I mean, he funded and built all of their stuff.
Yeah, I think he came around eventually. But
yeah, it took some time.
He was not very happy about them at first.
Well, it's funny about that because of the follow-up series to that, The Batman, he is the one that sets up the Justice League, and he's the one that recruits Superman eventually, which that's an underrated show. We'll talk about that sometime. I like The Batman.
I also like
Yeah.
It's fun.
I know that like what the heck happened in Batman versus Superman or Batman v Super, whatever the hell it's called. like the Flash appeared and was like, "You gotta form the Justice League, man," and then like disappeared.
It's like,
And there's
Lois is the key to all of this.
like no continuity because the movies are so tonally different because they had to stop, or Snyder had to stop filming because unfortunately he had some family things he had to tend to, and then Joss Whedon stepped in. And so it's just a complete, like, just watching the movie feels like you're kind of having whiplash because
it's awful.
you're so one minute you're in Snyder's world, the next minute you can tell you're watching a Joss Whedon movie,
Well,
and you're just kind of like, this is not
well, besides the fact that there's jokes in color,
right.
you can tell the Joss Whedon scenes, A, because of the terrible CGI in Superman's upper lip,
Oh yes.
and B, it's just characters standing around in front of green screens talking at each other, and like not being in the same frame as each other because they had to shoot them on different days on different schedules for the reshoots. It's so obvious and so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely, it's to me, it's so much worse to watch this than it is to watch Batman v Superman, because at least like I can be like, why are they making these horrible decisions? It's like, oh god, this is a boring version of these characters I already don't like. And it's so frustrating to watch. And
I
like,
was I was rewatching it the other day, and you can actually see like they're not even looking at each other. There's like one scene where they're all surrounding like a crate, and they're all like looking in opposite directions. Like they're just not, their eye lines do not meet. And I'm like,
because they're not in the same room.
Bizarre.
And then they smash cut to digging up Superman's corpse to reanimate him. I'm like, that's weird. You didn't need to show that.
Yeah, if you were a Superman fan,
you would probably be very disappointed by this movie because
Absolutely.
he's like not in 3/4 of it, and it's almost like it feels like having a group movie and not having Superman. It's just missing the heart and soul of the whole team.
And the way they handled the Justice League in this, it's like they can't do anything without Superman. They can't beat anyone without him. And then when Superman comes back, he just punches the bad guy into space, like literally saves like hundreds more people than the Flash at the same time. It's just like, what's the point of any of these characters now? Like, I guess Aquaman can breathe underwater, so he can do that stuff. Like, he's faster than the Flash. Like, Batman doesn't do anything. Batman doesn't do anything at the end of the last movie. When Doomsday shows up, he just runs away. Like, that's all he does.
The stick.
Yeah, he gets his kryptonite caveman spear, which why wouldn't you just make brass knuckles just to punch Superman to death? Why do you got to make like a stupid spear? Like,
he doesn't even get it. Lois Lane is the one who gets it.
Yeah, Lois gets it. She threw it away.
Lois is more helpful, but we knew that.
Listen, she's the one that had to explain the significance of Martha, which, to be fair, I don't know if this made it an interesting twist or not, but at that moment is when I realized both of their mothers are named Martha. Like, for years, I was like, oh, I never thought about that. And then I was like, wow, that's really stupid.
And now
You should be like, that's a weird coincidence, and then just stab him in the face. Because the whole movie, like, number one goal is to kill Superman. Because he's like, if there's a 1% chance he could be a problem, we have to take that as 100% certainty he's going to go crazy. I'm like, that's like, I mean, granted, Batman should be unhinged, I guess, because we discussed earlier, but like, I don't know.
It's just dumb.
A lot of decisions are made.
It's
a lot of
sure were.
And and it, like we talked about, it cultivated a fan base that now they pushed and pushed, and now there's this new version coming out that's reshoots, and they just released a new image of what Jared Leto is going to look like as the Joker, and it's just like I don't know how different this movie is going to be and how it's going to fix all the problems from the original. But there is a group of people that swear that this is going to be the next biggest thing ever. And, Godspeed, because they've got a lot of work to do.
You know what? Maybe we'll do a podcast after that comes out. I'll very begrudgingly watch it. I do not want to watch it. But, maybe it'd be worth getting a couple people together and getting a review and thoughts down for an episode. But, like, I'm not looking forward to it. Like, because you mentioned Jared Leto, because this came on the heels of Suicide Squad. Between Lex Luthor and this version of this character, it's like DC's two most iconic villains. I'm like, I don't want to see these characters again. Like, why am I going back to this world? I don't know.
Probably won't.
Yeah.
But Scott, if you do record another one, I'd say see if you can find somebody that is like a big fan of this
Oh,
era,
I know a couple of people. So
maybe they'll have more points to make about, you know, where the appeal is.
you know what, man? Maybe I'll love the Snyder Cut. Everything tells me that I won't, but you know, crazier things have happened.
Who knows?
Maybe it'll be like, oh, this is finally, it all makes sense to me now. But watching other Zack Snyder movies like Sucker Punch and stuff, I'm like, man, this guy sucks.
Oh, I like Sucker Punch.
I hate Sucker Punch.
I was pretty stoked for Sucker Punch, and it did not deliver.
It fell a little flat, but
Yeah.
But a lot of style.
The last movie we were going to talk about on this, because it's the most recent one that has been released. Obviously, the Snyder Cut has not come out yet. The Batman hasn't come out yet. We'll definitely come back and talk about that movie whenever it gets released. I think 2021. Later this year, or is it next year? 2020.
it's next year. They pushed it.
Yeah, all right. So it's going to be a while before we see that. But the last one, you know, I have on the list to talk about is Lego Batman movie in 2017. So it's just starring the Will Arnett Lego character in a feature-length film all on his own. I love this movie. I already took a version of the character I really like. It reinvented the Batman world in this new Lego style. I love the relationship they gave him with the Joker in it, where the Joker's kind of like his jilted lover. I think that's really fun. I love that they did the thing with Robin. This has got the best joke in any of these movies. When Robin's first meeting was like, oh, you know, my name's Richard, but my friends call me Dick. And Bruce Wayne's just like, kids can be so cruel. Because it happens really fast, because he's like not even paying that much attention to him at the time. But like, to me, that's really funny. Because it's a joke you're not going to get as a kid, but like as an adult, I really appreciated it. Again, it brings all that creativity from the Lego movies into it. Because, you know, everything's Batman kind of like rebuilds his like vehicles and stuff on the fly. I like that it also is one of the few movies that really goes into like how kind of sad and lonely Batman is. Yeah, I know you have some thoughts on this movie, Harry.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just love that they were given sort of the freedom to cover things that you can identify. If you're reading the comic books, you can be like, oh, I remember this storyline, you know, and that love-hate relationship between the Joker and the Batman. Does one need the other to survive and stay around? That's been an ongoing thing throughout. But they were given the freedom to not only do that, but make it funny and appeal to kids, appeal to adults. This sort of writing, I think, is like sort of the sweet spot for Batman stories. And I don't know if they'd get away with this kind of tone in a live action environment, but I would at least want to bring those writers on to maybe do some like script corrections or something, because the way that they're able to straddle the line, I think was like a perfect way to go about this movie.
Yeah, I love so much about it. I like how they kind of handled the rest of this universe. Like the Justice League's having a party and they didn't invite Batman because nobody really likes him. But like Batman keeps talking about like Superman's his greatest enemy, I think, to make fun of like Batman v Superman. And Superman doesn't really think about him at all. I mean,
they brought in other villains. They brought in like Voldemort and stuff, you know.
Well, all right. So the end of the movie, I was not expecting. So Joker goes to the Phantom Zone, and like because it's a Lego movie, they have the license to like a million franchises. So like Voldemort and King Kong and like the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, like they all team up to fight Batman and destroy Gotham at the end. And like I remember watching, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Right.
I had like reference overload. But but what makes it good is like Batman, Batgirl, Robin, and Alfred, because he gets in like the 60s Batman costume, but it still has like a mustache printed on it. They all kind of like team up to like save the day. And like it's about Batman learning to like kind of like open himself back up and kind of have like he's allowed to have a family again. And I love that like he sort of adopts Robin. And like he brings him to Wayne Manor, but like he doesn't know he's Bruce Wayne. He's like, oh my God, wait, Batman lives at Wayne Manor. That must mean he's Bruce Wayne's roommate. Like it's a funny movie.
It's great.
But there's so many like fun Easter eggs in it too. Like when they're there, like you see all of the old costumes, but like the old Nightwing costumes and stuff too. Like it's fun. I don't know. I ended up liking it more than I thought I might. Not that I didn't think I was going to dislike it, because I did like the Lego movie, but it had more heart than I think I was anticipating.
Absolutely. And I was a
Definitely.
little on the fence about the voice actor for the Joker, because it wasn't Mark Hamill.
It's Zach Galifianakis.
Zach Galifianakis,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I was like, really? The guy from The Hangover?
Oh,
But
I
it
love
worked.
Zach Galifianakis.
It worked.
Yeah, he's great because he does a lot of really weird offbeat stuff. If you guys never watched Bored to Death, you should really check it out. If you have HBO Max, it was an HBO show. That's a really great, like, the premise of that show is a character's a mystery writer. So he kind of tries to become a mystery, like a private eye in real life. And his best friend Zach Galifianakis, and they get into some shenanigans. But I'd recommend that show. And that's a little bit.
It's great.
It's if you haven't seen it, it's great. Yeah. So I don't know. Again, they play with the Lego stuff because like the city breaks apart. This is the one where we get to have Billy D. Williams play Two-Face.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yes. See, that's the thing I love. They pull, like, if you know these like little behind the scenes tidbits, like they just pull from all these different pockets from the Batman universe. And so if you're a fan of any of these movies we've talked about and you haven't seen this one yet, you'll find something in there that you'll either recognize or you'll love. So
yeah. Like, because the Bane in it is like the Dark Knight Rises Bane. Like, I don't know. It's great. I love in the beginning when there's like the Condiment King and stuff, and the Joker turns to the camera like, these are actual Batman characters. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Calendar Man.
Yeah, Calendar Man and like Condiment King. Like there's so much goofy like it plays with the fact that Batman's kind of got a lot of goofy stuff in his history, but it does play into like they treat the character stuff like real. Like the story with him and Robin's really good. Like it's legitimately a good movie, and like honestly a really good introduction to Batman for like kids. Not that you're really spoiled for choice. There's tons of great cartoons and stuff, but I don't know. I it's super charming. I really enjoy it. But yeah, unless you guys got any final thoughts, I think that'll bring us into the commercial break finally, and then when we come back, we'll talk about our favorite and least favorite Batman movies. Although I think we might have tipped our hand a little bit in a few places. All right, we'll be right back. All right. Created by husband and wife team Kendall and Kayla, Star Savior Bunny combines Sailor Moon-esque super heroics with the challenges of early adulthood. Read for free at tapis.io and check out their Instagram at StarSaviorBunny for new updates and projects. Thank you for listening to our podcast, but have you checked out our store yet? We sell all kinds of nerdy products from comics and graphic novels to retro video games, model kits, toys, and statues, and more. Visit us at levelupentertainment.com, and as a special Explore Toy promotion, the first 20 people to use the code FRIENDSCAST at checkout will receive 10% off their first purchase. If this is successful, we will do more podcast exclusive promotions in the future. That's levelupentertainment.com and code FRIENDSCAST. FRIENDSCAST.
This message is for Ileana and Miguel. Hey, this is Gabriel Iglesias.
It's Mark Hamill here.
What's up, y'all? This is me, DMC, the KING.
Martha Sedan, the Zombie King.
I'm Paul Felder, UFC fighter.
WWE superstar Sonya Deville.
What's up, guys? This is Harry Mack.
Hi, I'm Julia Leewald.
And I'm Eric Leewald. Hey, this is Matt Cardona from the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast.
Yakko Warner here, described mysteriously as an old man from Michigan. And you are watching Toy Quest 101, baby.
And you're watching Toy Quest 101.
You're watching Toy Quest 101.
And you're watching Toy Quest 101.
Hey guys, it's Ileana and Miguel here from Toy Quest 101.
Make sure to check us out for toy reviews, statue unboxings, and to see what celebrity guests might pop up to help us inspire kids with autism and special needs.
You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok.
And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Toy Quest 101.
Oh, and remember, the Force will be with you always.
Bye now.
So now we're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite Batman movies. I'm going to start us off going from least favorite to my most favorite. My least favorite is Justice League. followed by Batman v Superman, then Batman Forever, Batman Returns, then the Lego movie, just because it's not as much focused on Batman. Dark Knight Rises, Batman 89, then Batman and Robin, I put it above it. Batman Begins, the Lego Batman movie, Mask of the Phantasm, The Dark Knight, and then my favorite Batman movie is Batman the movie from 1966. For me, it really comes down to between Batman the movie and The Dark Knight, in which mood I'm in. I'll give Batman the movie a little bit of edge because I think it's more rewatchable. It's a lot more lighthearted and it goes quicker. But like my least favorite, I hate the DCEU movies. They're the only ones I would legitimately say don't watch. So yeah, that's my pick. I don't think it was super surprising for people that know me and listen to the first half of the podcast. But what about you, Shenandoah? What are your favorites and least favorites?
Gosh, I would say least favorites. I didn't assemble a list.
Yeah, it helps me put my thoughts together by putting them in order.
Definitely. I would probably say Justice League is definitely my least favorite. Very closely followed by Batman v Superman. Other than that, my favorite is going to be Batman 89 and then Mask of the Phantasm. They kind of tie there. Everything else kind of like middles for me. I know I enjoy them all, save for the DCEU ones.
That's fair. What about you, Kendall?
I'm not even going to count the DCEU ones. I haven't seen the one, and yeah. My least favorite is a tie. I can't decide. I've been thinking about it all day. Yeah, Dark Knight Rises and Batman Forever.
Don't listen to him, Harvey. Don't listen to him.
that is one of my big like they set up these characters, introduce rules for them, and then just like, all right, we're breaking these rules. But for all, I rewatched Batman Forever this morning because before today it was my like straight up least favorite. But I rewatched it and I was like, I maybe am a little too hard on this movie. Dark Knight Rises, it just like, for as smart as the movie before was, this one like is very cheap. We were talking about how, the Batman Begins like did the twist and like used your comic book knowledge against you. Mm-hmm. This one doesn't do it in a clever way. It just lies to you.
Yeah.
And then it just like, reveals it like you're supposed to be impressed, but it's like, oh no, I figured it out. You told me a lie. And like, now I'm supposed to be happy with you. There's like, yeah, I think that movie's garbage. Anyway.
All right. Well, I know what your favorite is, but let's tell the people at home.
All right, kids at home. Batman 89 is my favorite Batman movie. It's everything I want. I don't know. It's just like, it's amazing. That one followed very closely by Batman the movie. I just think they're great. They're two very different interpretations, but yeah, I just love them. They're great.
Yeah, I like Batman 89, but to me it's what I consider like baseline Batman. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a very standard Batman experience, in my opinion. Not saying it's bad. I do like the movie, but like it's kind of how I judge everything else around it. So if anyone actually paid attention to my list, it is like kind of dead in the middle.
It definitely like sets up all the Batman to come. Like,
yeah,
it get like even just like Danny Elfman's score is like,
oh, there's a lot to love in it.
the Art Deco style.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that like you can't quite tell what time period this is supposed to be because like the cars look old and like there's newspaper people that are like, is this the 50s? I
Right.
don't know, but it's still kind of modern. That's really, really neat. Like that whole world that Tim Burton created for that movie and the style. I really like that for Batman, and I like when comic book creators take that and run with it.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, what about you, Hair?
Oh, this is tough. I didn't put together a list either ahead of time, but I think I've got to give, as far as top goes, like I have to give it to probably The Dark Knight. I'm not giving it to Batman Forever, don't worry, but that is up there. That's like 3 or 4 for me. But no, Batman 89 definitely. Although I will say, like when we're ranking the bottom, like our least favorite, Batman Returns is actually one of my least favorite of the Batman movies.
It's down there for me too. Yeah,
I know for a lot of people that's surprisingly that's like one of their top. They like it, better than Batman 89. But I don't know, something I really like the performances in that. I think Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman and Danny DeVito as Penguin are great. But when I watch it again, it's like the scope of Gotham is just so contained in that one set of like the town square or whatever, and it's really strange to watch. I do like to go back and watch it around the holidays, but it's not like one of my favorites compared to some of these other ones. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's just kind of down there.
How I describe Batman Returns, because I also really don't. I like it less and less the older I get. I describe it as overindulgent. It's got 3 villains in it. Like it's really doubling down on like Tim Burton's everyone's a weird misfit. Like I don't know. It's too much, and like it's not enough substance, if that makes any sense. I really, really don't like this version of Catwoman. Which stinks is like I think this is a really interesting take on Penguin, who is one of my favorite Batman villains. So like I don't know, it's just weird and like I don't find it overly compelling.
And it's funny because like there's still, that movie still influences that version of those characters today. I mean, the Penguin that you see with the backstory of the royal birth, and he had been disfigured and all that, it still pops up now. And same with Selena Kyle. I think she's turned more to like the cat burglar part of her.
Yeah, she's gone back to that instead of this weird
character.
I was dead and reborn thing.
Right, but that storyline was sort of taken in the Wonder Woman 1984, the 1980.
Yeah, it was 1984.
Yeah. So I was rewatching that or watching that, and I was the Cheetah storyline in that their antagonist has sort of the same arc as the Selena Kyle arc.
Man, talk about more bad DC.
Well, not to change the subject, but I'm just saying that Batman Returns is still pretty influential today on the DC.
It's the reason the Catwoman movie is the way it is, at least.
Yeah, it's basically the same premise.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other can of worms, that movie.
But no, I do, as far as loves, I mean, I love the Lego Batman movie. I love The Dark Knight, as we all talked about. I love Batman Forever. I mean, I just can't, it's that nostalgia that I just can't get past. I know that it's campy, but I mean, it's just.
I mean, I like camp. It's just but I like Batman and Robin more because it doesn't pretend that it's not anything but that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Those characters too, like the Riddler and Two-Face became like 2 of my favorite Batman villains, 2 of my favorite DC villains, and I think it's because of this movie, even though they're not the best versions of those characters.
Oh, see, because I know you're always a Two-Face guy, but I always assumed it was because of the animated series. Because I think he's
a little of both. Is a little bit about like my career too, because I'm like, which of my colleagues would make a great Two-Face? But no, it's the introduction to the character was this movie.
Man, that stinks. Is like I can like both of those characters, but like to me, they're both playing different flavors of the Joker, and that to me is not like
they're very Nicholson.
They're not like that, makes them not fun together, because like you probably want them to be one be wacky and one be serious, like or you'd want some sort of dynamic that they'd bring to each other. Like that's like
don't get the brand in that movie.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Robin makes Yeah, I don't know.
And I will say that the storyline with the Riddler figuring out Bruce Wayne's identity, that was done in a really, really great episode of the animated series, The Strange Secret of Bruce Wayne, where they brought in I want to call him Doctor Strange, but he's not Doctor Strange.
It's Hugo Strange.
No, it is, isn't it?
Hugo
Strange.
Hugo Strange.
Yeah.
It's Hugo Strange, and he is a doctor, so he is Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm like, oh, is that my Marvel like seeking in here? But no, it's a great episode of the original of the animated series. If you get a chance, check it out. Where Bruce Wayne's secret identity may or may not be discovered. And I think they pulled some of that into Batman Forever.
Like I said, I think there's only legitimately 2 bad episodes of that show. All of the rest of them are great. It's the one where the fat guy kidnaps Bruce Wayne and makes him work in the desert is bad. And the one where there's like a guy kidnapping kids in the sewers is bad.
I was gonna say that one is definitely up there for me in terms of the worst.
Yeah. Everything else, like,
we should do an animated series podcast.
Yes.
I really, it's just an excuse to rewatch it.
Yeah.
I know in the Harley Quinn one, I talked about my favorite episode, which is Joker's favorite in the first appearance of Harley Quinn. He's so scary in the beginning of that.
Mm-hmm.
He's just chasing down that guy that like cut him off in traffic. Oh my God. And he thinks he got away, and then like the Joker throws 2 cents at him, is like penny for your thoughts or whatever. Oh my God. Like, oh, it's great. And then at the end, like that guy's scaring the Joker so bad, Joker's calling out for Batman. Like save him. Like yeah, we're definitely going to talk about Batman the animated series. Maybe we'll do like what we've done for what we did for Star Trek: The Next Generation. We'll each bring like our top episodes and discuss them.
Sounds good.
That might be fun. Because honestly, that animated universe, because it also like spawned off into like Superman and the Justice League stuff. That's my favorite version of DC, including the comic books. But they also reminded
me, Scott. Sorry, I wanted to make another shout out for Batman: Return of the Joker, which was the Batman Beyond theatrical movie. I don't know. I think it was in theaters.
I don't think it did. It came out on DVD. I think is where it came out.
Okay. But that is a great, to me, that was the epilogue of the animated series. But they did do an epilogue episode later. But I just, the performances in that, the animation.
I was super into that when I discovered it. If it had a theatrical run, I looked it up. I don't think it did. I'm sure someone's playing it in the theater somewhere.
Talk about a twist.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It kind of doesn't make any sense when you stop and think about it, but like in the moment, you're like, oh, it's great.
Right.
I guess let's talk about it a little bit since we're here now.
Sorry, Scott. I didn't mean to like swerve us into this. I just,
it is a really good movie. Like it's kind of, because I never was a huge Batman Beyond show guy, but this one really makes me like Terry, like the character of Terry McGinnis. I love at the end when, because the whole thing, like Joker's kind of making fun of like, hey, you're not really Batman, blah blah blah. Like he's like, I'd miss the cape and stuff.
It's a mystery. I mean, how
like,
is the Joker
why
back?
Is he how's he alive? Because Batman's like, well, we eventually get the flashback where like Robin killed him in the unrated cut.
Yeah.
And Batman was there, so like Batman knows he's dead. So the whole time, like Batman's like, it's not really him, it can't be.
Right.
Or not Batman, Bruce Wayne is saying that. But like, yeah, he's back and like he's fit, like Bruce Wayne's an old man in it. Yeah. Because it's like 50 years later, something like that. But yeah, it comes back like, he secretly programmed his DNA into Robin, which is weird. And I don't think makes any sense, but like it's cool to see him like kind of Jekyll and Hyde into him. When that's
it's creepy when they do the flashback when they first find Tim. Like Joker's trying to raise him as like his son, and it's like Batman's worst nightmare. I think there's another storyline in the comics like that too, where there was like some kind of like one of the kids got abducted or something, and it's just playing on Batman's worst fears and seeing the tragedy that's the end of that is crazy. So good. It's like really dark.
It's really dark. Yeah. Well, I love at the end when like Terry's kind of like fighting him and he's like laughing. He's like teasing the Joker. Really. He's not acting like classic Batman, and it's really putting Joker off his game.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that his sidekick is Ace, the Bat Hound, in it. Like, obviously was a character in the show, but like I like that he brings him to the last fight, and like he helps him fight the gang of Jokers and stuff. I don't know. It's so good, and the soundtrack in it also is awesome.
Yeah.
No, it's a very quality one, but because I didn't put it on my list because it wasn't theatrically released. But if I were to rank it, I think I'd put it above Mask of the Phantasm. It's just for the notion that it's so different and it's so dark, like in a way that's satisfying, not in a way that's depressing.
That's tough.
Yeah,
That's tough to try to rank those two against each other.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah, like Batman 89 is a solid choice. I know a lot of people that's their favorite Batman movie. I think it's Wes's favorite too. I
Jack
like
Nicholson, greatest. Whoever his attorney was to do the contract negotiations was fantastic. Do you know this backstory? He negotiated to take less in pay in order to get the role, and on what he decided to do was instead he'd get a cut of the merchandising and the sales on the back end. And at the time, that wasn't done in actors' salaries. He didn't really see that. There wasn't much merch. I think this movie really kicked off like a big merchandising thing with like summer blockbusters and tie-ins. So the studio was like, oh yeah, sure, that's not going to hurt us at all. Like you can take as much of a percentage as you want. And he ended up making way more money that way because the movie was a hit, the toys were a hit, and he got a cut of everything because of the way that they negotiated that contract. So kudos, Jack Nicholson's lawyer stories.
Wow.
I mean, there's a lot of really great iconic scenes in that. I love when after his surgery, after his accident, and like they don't show his face, he's like the mirror, and then he smashes it and starts laughing after he sees himself and goes crazy.
And what a laugh.
Yeah.
So good.
That movie has my favorite I'm Batman. Like, it's so effective. Like, I remember like being a like tiny kid, just like sitting in the living room and just seeing him on Batman. It's just like, whoa, like
it's Batman. Yeah.
And it's just so powerful. I don't know. Like, they've definitely like tried to do it again, and just for me, nothing can like capture that.
Yeah, I think after this movie, I'm Batman became like a catchphrase of his, because like I remember that like you see it shoehorned all over the place. Like there's the famous trail like a commercial for Batman the animated series. Yeah, I'm the Knight, I am Vengeance, I am Batman. But like, what does that mean? Like, because he, like who's he talking to? But like in that, like he's like tell your friends, like his Batman's like he's trying to do the fear thing. But like that whole scene where he kind of comes, like first time you see him, he's like way in the back in the shadows, and like he kind of comes down into like the frame like awkwardly because he's sneaking up on these guys.
He's like it's very like kind of like slow, and they do that a couple times.
Yeah.
Like it happens in the chemical in the not Ace Chemicals, it's
Axis. Yeah.
Yeah, why did they change the name?
Even how the movie. What's
they
that?
had a few like licensing issues with this movie too. I don't know if that's why they had to change it, but like the symbol is wrong too. They had to add like the extra points at the bottom of the bat symbol for some reason because of licensing.
That's weird.
That's crazy.
Oh, did Warner Brothers own DC yet at this time? They might not have bought. Sure. They might not have bought them yet. So it might have been.
They fixed it. Like it's fixed for Batman Returns. The symbol's like back to normal or whatever. But and even the merchandising, like the logo on the box is the regular bat symbol. But for whatever reason, the symbol on Batman's chest, it has to have like 2 extra points on the bottom because they just couldn't. They didn't license that image. I don't know.
I kind of need to look out for that next time I see it again.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely keep an eye out because like it shows up on some of the merchandise. Like Lego just put out an '89 Batman like collector set, which is like this huge version of that Batmobile, and they gave you the minifigures, and it's so cool. They included that detail on the Batman minifigure that it has like the 2 extra points on the bottom of his logo.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What minifigures did that come with? Is it just Batman?
No, it came with Batman, Vicky Vale, and Jack Nicholson's Joker.
I was hoping it came
and that was the first time, and that was the first time any of those had been produced in Lego form, specifically from that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know it's got your favorite character in it, right, Kendall?
Oh, Bob.
Best
He's my number one guy.
Never rub another man's root bar.
Oh man.
Like you and I have quoted that scene where Joker like shakes him, is like, "You are my number one guy," so many times in our life.
Yeah.
I think for Christmas or my birthday one day got me like in
the action figure.
Yeah, I got it mint on card for you. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, because we quote that scene specifically all the time.
The whole movie is so quotable.
That's a great.
Oh, it is.
Where does he get all these wonderful toys?
Yeah, I mean, we've used
my
that,
balloon.
We've used that in commercials and stuff. Oh yeah, like I said, the Prince stuff is the only thing that holds it back for me. Like, it's not really a problem. It's just like it kind of pulls me out of it because it's because like the actual score to it is so good. And then like you get this weird Prince pop music in it, and like
okay, but Party Man, that scene is so iconic.
Where he's dancing.
How can you not love them when exactly in the museum?
I think
so good.
I listened to Prince before like watching this movie, but it came out early enough in my life that like
yeah, it's my introduction to Prince. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It doesn't really bother me.
Did you ever see the music video?
Bat
yes.
Prince is like dressed up like the Joker.
There's Bat Dance and then there's Party Man.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Yeah, if you haven't watched it, like definitely recommend it. Pull it up.
Yes.
Well, when you're done watching this on YouTube, go watch that on YouTube. Oh man. So what were some of the other ones we really liked? Like I love Batman, the 60s Batman, like the Some Days You Can't Get Rid of a Bomb scene like is cinematic gold. I don't know. There's so much great stuff. One of the things on my bucket list was to meet Batman and Robin. By that I mean Adam West and Burt Ward. And unfortunately, I was able to before Adam West passed at ACBC in 2015 because I have the poster from it on my wall. So that was great. And the only reason I did that is because they were there, and because it was such a badly run con, there was no there was no one there, so there was no lines. So I was like, oh, I can just walk up and meet, and I got to meet a lot of cool celebrities that day because of it. Harry, you were there, so we got to meet. I got to meet Pinky and the Brain, Rob Paulson, and Marissa Marsh. And then after we left the con, I was like, I can't believe I didn't talk to them about Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters, because they were both there. So it's like, oh, it's Pinky and the Brain, like as a duo. But forgetting they were Egon and Raph, I'm like, oh my god.
And I'm not sure if it was always like this, Scott, but like it just seemed like Adam West and I think maybe Burt Ward was like always a little hesitant, but they both seem to embrace the character at least later on in their lives to show up at conventions and do like I was Batman, these like kooky cameos on like Big Bang Theory and stuff like that.
Well,
was it always like that, or were they angry about that?
I'm sure that they were typecast for a while, but like so I have the movie on DVD and they do a commentary throughout it, and in it they like talk about how much they appreciate it and what they've done. I don't know how much of it's an act they're putting on. When I met them, they weren't overly happy because it was such a badly run con that they weren't getting the money they were anticipating.
Not the best day.
And I was there on the last day and like towards the end. But they were real nice with me, but I've got their framed signed photos on the wall. The Adam West one, I got him holding the bomb and it says to Scott, stuff like that. So I'm happy.
It just seems like after these Batman live actors are done with the role, it seems like they're just so ready to be done with it. Like they're just like relieved almost about the experience that they don't like it.
Well,
I don't know.
Adam West and Burt Ward ended up like right before Adam passed, coming back to those characters and
the animated movies,
Batman, 6,
and the pinball machine.
Yes, they recorded new stuff for the pinball machine.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I love that machine.
I have to play it some more. I only got to play it the one time.
There are quite a few Batman pinball machines. Yeah, Batman 66, the 89 got a pinball machine. Batman Forever got a pinball machine. The Dark Knight got a pinball machine.
I played the Dark Knight one.
It.
What's the Dark Knight trilogy, right? Or is it just the Dark Knight?
It is like Batman Begins / The Dark Knight.
Okay.
It was out before
Rises. Okay.
But yeah, Batman's been a very popular pinball. I think it's probably the DC's like most featured pinball.
I mean, that makes sense.
Character.
He's generally the most popular character, and like, you know, he like that 90s era of movies was like extremely popular. Like again, the merchandising stuff. I was, you know, we were kids in the teeth of that, and like I very distinctly remember nonstop.
Do you have any favorite toys that you remember from that, or from any of the Batman movies?
The only Batman toys I had as a kid is the animated series toys you could get from McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
I had the Batman. I had a couple of the villains. I think I had Catwoman. But like I didn't have like Batmobile. I didn't really have a lot of Batman toys. When I was a kid, I wanted Ninja Turtles a lot more. Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters were my toy jam. I always wanted Transformers, but they were too expensive, and I didn't really engage with the media for it. I just thought the toys were awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know.
How about you guys? And you guys have any toys that you remember from any of the Batman live action?
I didn't really have any toys. I did have the glasses from Batman Forever. And if I had anything, I definitely don't remember other than that. It was mostly just like posters and pictures, and I think some trading cards.
Oh yeah. Oh,
we were big in
the 89 and the Batman Returns.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, my uncle definitely got me big into trading cards, but other than that, no, I was sadly lacking in the toys.
I might still have some of the gum stuck somewhere in my body.
So I had the Batcave from they released it 4 times, like each time for the movie that was out at the time. Like I have to give Kenner, or I think it was Kenner, all the credit, because all they did was slap a new coat of paint on it and just released it again. And they did it for the animated series too, so I think it was 5 times.
Nice.
Did it come with the Bruce Wayne figure?
Yes, and you could put him in the thing and spin it, and you put a Batman figure on the other side, so it'd be like he changed into Batman. But it was, I do remember that, and it had like a little garage that you could put the Batmobile in, and
that's
everything.
Awesome.
But yeah, Batman merchandise.
I had the Batman Returns version of that one, and it came with like a Michael Keaton figure. But my favorite was so it was in the Batman Returns line, but they put out a Tim Drake Robin figure.
Oh,
and like
really?
Yeah, I just like they didn't call him Tim Drake, they just called him Robin, but it was like
it's that
Tim
costume.
Yeah.
And Robin is like my favorite DC character.
I remember reading that like that was a dropped potential storyline for Batman Returns, right? Like weren't they going to introduce Robin, I think, earlier? Yeah, I remember reading that.
And it was supposed to be kind of like a Jason Todd style thing. Or like he was going to be the mechanic for the Batmobile first or something.
Yeah, interesting.
Because I know how Jason Todd got introduced in the comics. He was like stealing the wheel off the Batmobile or something. And then Batman's like,
I think that.
Yeah. And then Batman's like, I guess I'll just adopt you.
You know my secret now. You can.
This one's mine now.
I've never been a big fan of Jason Todd. I like Tim Drake's origin more, where he like sought out the mantle of Robin. He didn't just fall into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know Kendall. I know you're a big Tim Drake fan. Were you a big Tim Drake fan before these movies? Or like, did you get into him from the comics?
Well, yeah. I mean, he was never in those movies, so I forget around. I think it was when like '89 came out. Like, my mom would just occasionally bring like a comic book home. And I still have it. My first Batman comic was like a Maxie Zeus story, but I just remember like everyone I read, they called Robin Tim, but from the '66 movies, I knew he was Dick Grayson. I'm just like, I was very confused. I was like, why are they calling him this? Like, never imagining that it could be a different character. But then one of the ones she brought home was like a 3-part story about like Lady Shiva wanting to kill Robin. I was like, Robin's the best character.
So that's why you love Batman Forever so much, right? Because it's introducing.
The part where he's doing like ninja laundry.
His gymnastics background.
It was like this.
Two-Face murdered his parents. Boom, right in front of him. No. Awesome.
Yeah, and he's just like, all right, I'm out. I'm gonna go kill Two-Face.
Yep.
He killed my whole family.
Yep.
Bruce Wayne's like, oh well, you could fix this motorcycle and have it. And he's like,
He was teaching him vengeance isn't everything.
Sometimes there's also motorcycles.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he just killed your whole family, dude.
But it's also weird, like he's an adult in those movies.
Yes.
Why is he, like,
This is a 30-year-old man. Why are you adopting
I think
him?
he's supposed to be playing like a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
He talks about like social. He's like, oh, I'm trying to like avoid social services and stuff.
Dude, he looks older than us like now.
Forever. I wrote a whole list of things.
Oh, is that what the?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I forgot you had this list. Let's talk about it.
Let's see. What didn't we already say? Oh, when Bruce Wayne meets Edward Nygma's like, yeah, I got this brain controlling device, and he's like, oh, well, like call my
people.
We'll set up an appointment to talk about it. It's just like, what?
Okay, Kendall. He's the head of a major company, and you know what company wouldn't want to subliminally get into your brain for marketing? I mean, Bruce Wayne's just looking at the money.
All right,
you know?
I think what I'm going to speak for you for a minute, Kendall. I think what you're getting at is Batman deals with supervillains. That is a supervillain device. Running some sort of red flag, I think.
But he only has a problem with it morally when Edward is like, oh, I don't want to talk to your assistant. And then he's like, well, you know, this is a morally terrible.
Too many questions.
thing.
It raises too many questions.
And he's like, yeah, that's what he says. I was just like,
He was trying to be nice, but I think he always in the back of his mind was going to turn the project down. But you know, he's got to milk this guy for every idea he has.
See, to do the ethical thing, he needs to patent it and then never release it, so no one else can make it.
Exactly.
And then when Two-Face busts into the circus, he's like, one of you either knows Batman or is Batman. So you got 2 minutes to tell me
At the
how this bomb will kill us all.
Yep.
And it's like, okay. And then Bruce Wayne is trying to say, hey, it's me. But like, there's no system set in place.
It's all pandemonium.
It's like chaos.
Okay, Two-Face didn't think that one through. You know, he should have had like a microphone or something to get to the crowd.
You know what's amazing?
Just pass it around.
Why did he think that somebody at a circus would randomly like be Batman or know who Batman is? And two, what are the freaking odds that Batman actually is there?
So I think
the biggest event
like
in
a
town.
benefit or something.
Yeah.
Kind of like charity thing. So it was all rich people.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I could buy it. I was trying
Yes.
Okay.
He
It's
was
been-
onto something.
It's been a long time since I watched Batman Forever.
But like after that scene, like there's just this random scene where like Two-Face is chasing the Batmobile.
Oh
and,
yeah.
like it drives up a wall.
Yes.
And I don't have a problem with that, but it's just like, what? Like you were trying to catch Two-Face. What happened? Like what is going on? Like what is this scene?
I have no real good defense for that one because it ends with the Batmobile defying gravity and shooting up and driving up the wall. So yeah, I really have nothing.
And like he kills all of Two-Face's henchmen in that scene. Like, just go get him, man. Like, he can't run you over anymore. Go get you. You're after him. And then there was at the end of the movie, like, police headquarters has the bat signal in the sky. For some reason, Batman never answers the call at all. But like, it exists just so like Riddler can make it into a question mark. And then like Batman flies by in the Batwing and like the commissioner's cheering. It's just like, you don't know where the hell he's going. You guys didn't even talk.
Well,
Like,
listen, the bat signal is, to be fair, it's a cool visual, but it's the worst way to communicate. That's why in the 60s one, they had a phone that was directly call him.
That's what I was going to say. You didn't see that. They cut that scene for time, Kendall, but he called, using the William Shakespeare head or whatever, the red phone.
Just pressing the button.
Yeah. And, they talked it out.
I love that that's in the pinball machine. The pinball machine is really good. I need to play it some more. I'm really bad at it.
Yeah, it's tough at first, but
yeah, I got to learn it. I only got to play it like once or twice. Yeah. So, do you have anything else on your list for Batman Forever?
I think.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my God! I can't believe I must skip this.
Oh.
The ground, it's holy.
I like that part. That's cute.
I'm fine with that.
That's cute. I like that.
Chase Meridian is an awful character.
Yeah, I was hoping it was going to be Chase. She's the worst.
Like, she shows up. She's like, "Yo, I want to fuck Batman." And then Batman's like, "Oh, I don't got luck with women. I'll cast all like, kind of." And like, so as you were saying earlier about like Batman's double life.
Yeah.
This woman was into Batman first. I think this is like the one character he could just be Bruce Wayne and Batman and have like a romantic relation. She is all about Batman. She is horny as hell. And like, she exists just so like dads taking their kids to see the movie can be like, oh yeah. Like, she's written so bad. They try to make her like an independent woman because she has a punching bag. But it's just so awful. Oh God.
I don't have any good comebacks to so
well, she was played by Elle McPherson, right? Or am I
Nicole
Kidman.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman.
Oh, was she? Who was Elle McPherson in any of these movies?
I don't know who that is.
I don't either.
She was on like the cover of like Sports Illustrated or something at the time. But I know that for a lot of the ladies, like they cast like supermodels that were hot, like not hot physically, but like were like in the public consciousness at the time. Like Mr. Freeze's wife was in like Playboy or something. In Batman and Robin. I don't remember exactly the details, but I remember I do remember there was a lot of that stuff. But yeah, holy smokes. Yeah, it's been a while since I watched Forever. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of interested in watching it now.
There you go.
Give it a watch.
Yeah.
I watched it this morning. I was like, I don't want to come here, talk a bunch of shit about something that like
one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And I watched it and I was like, okay.
Now it's just
that's why I like took the notes. I was like, here are my problems. I don't want to forget that.
Yeah. I put Batman Forever pretty low on my list. I don't really hate it or like really dislike it that much. To me, it's just like it's trying to have a little bit of the serious Tim Burton-y stuff in it and the Joel Schumacher camp, which I like both of those things, but it doesn't commit either way. Yeah. And I think the villains are really weak and not super interesting. So to me, like rewatchability was a big part of why I ranked the movies the way I did. And like, I just don't have any desire to ever really rewatch it. But now that I've got your guys' perspectives on it, I'm kind of interested in seeing it again.
Check it out.
I might like it more one way or the other.
I'm not mad I watched it this morning. Like,
Yeah.
There's something to it. And I won't even say I'll never watch it again. Like, I have no interest in watching Batman v Superman again.
No.
Yeah, I've never rewatched it. I watched it in theaters and I was like, man, that was bad. By the end, I was like, towards the end of it, I was just like, dude, this movie just needs to end. Like, once Doomsday showed up, I'm like, oh my god, just be over. Like, I was watching the screen in my head. I'm like, I can't believe this is still going. Like, oh my god.
I do think I like Forever more than Rises.
Okay.
I think it jumped up.
All right. I'll take it.
I'll tell you one thing, this conversation's made me like it a lot more. That was really cool to listen to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oof. All right. Does anyone else have anything else they want to get off their chest about Batman movies real quick? Or this is like a Batman therapy session right now.
I don't think we mentioned just how great Kevin Conroy is.
Oh, yes.
I think we definitely missed the mark in terms of talking about how fantastic he is as Batman.
He kind of just is Batman.
Add on.
Everything now.
Yeah, and he does the great job of, and I think maybe Adam West did this too to an extent, of playing Bruce Wayne and Batman. Like he has a different vocal performance depending on which character he's voicing at the time, and it's really effective. It's great.
Sorry, I know that's something they get away from in the animated series. Eventually, he just does the Batman voice 24/7. I do like the earlier seasons where he does do them both. I will say I will disagree with you, Adam West. He kind of always talks the same way.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Like, if
kind of always giving the same performance. Like, watch the movie. There's an extended scene where like Catwoman is in disguise as like a Russian person, Miss Kitka, and she's trying to seduce Bruce Wayne, and like he falls in love with her. But like you get scenes where like they're going on dates, which is really funny because like Robin's got like listening in on it in the Batmobile, and he like turns it off. He's like talking to Alfred's like, there's some things I just shouldn't hear and stuff. Like, it's so corny and great. And then the other villains show up on umbrellas and kidnap them, and they fly away. And
Halloween.
I love that they're wearing masks to disguise themselves, but they're very clearly like the Joker proven and they're wearing their costumes and stuff outside of that. Like, that's why it's so corny and fun. Like, it's dumb and it's having fun with it. Like, it relishes in it. I don't think Batman and Robin quite relishes in it, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think like it's definitely going for that. Like, you could superimpose the Pows and Biffs on it and it wouldn't look out of place.
Right.
Batman and Robin is definitely like definitely like Shenandoah was saying, like a 90s version of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It definitely like it's just that era's sense of humor.
And like I said, I really enjoy that movie. My biggest problem with it is it's way too long. It does get too long. You feel its length at a certain point. But like I said, to me it's like watching money burn. Like, as a movie buff, like it's like sometimes like something that's like so hilariously disastrous, like it's more fast. Like I'm more engaged by it because I'm like, there's a part where like Robin's swimming and like he goes up for a breath and then they just reverse the footage of him going back down. And but like there's parts where like Mr. Freeze is freezing the city and like it's so cheap looking, and I know how expensive this movie was. Like the icicles are like wobbling and stuff because they're just made of cheap rubber. Like it's so bizarre. And like I know only the things that exist because of toys. Like, so all of a sudden like Batman's got an entire like anti-ice
line, yeah,
like arsenal, like at the ready. Like, so many vehicles, so many like total suits.
Yep. Which they play on in the Lego Batman movie. So like I love that they bring that back.
Yeah.
The Lego Batman movie is really a love letter to the character's history as a whole.
Definitely.
Like watching Batman and Robin is just like baffling, the decisions that they made in it. Like why even have Bane in it? Well, and there's a part where like Bane goes under disguise, but he's like Monster Bane, and he's got a trench coat and a hat. He's like
so great.
Yeah, he's like a Ninja Turtle. Like it's just, but it works.
I love Bane in the movie. I think
so do I too.
He's great.
I love how he like repeats what people say around like an idiot.
Yeah, he's just basically like a dumb monster. He reminds me of like Gossamer from Looney Tunes. The big hairy dude. Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I love Batman and Robin. I think you need to watch it with the mindset that it's supposed to be like the 60s stuff. It's not. It's weird that it's supposedly in the same universe as like Batman 89 because it's just not.
Right.
Like, there's no. And Batman Forever really just does not. It just butt heads with that, like that world that they set up.
Yeah.
I do think you kind of need to watch them as two separate things, even though I know there's a little bit of connective tissue between them. And I know that Batman Forever was designed to be a sequel from it initially. But yeah, man, I'd say maybe we should do a Superman episode, but like we covered like a bunch of it and it's just not good.
So Scott, I was going to ask really quick if there was any like hopes and dreams that you would have for the Batman, the Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to bring
movie
that
coming
up.
out.
When that movie came, or not the movie because the movie hasn't come out yet, but like when that trailer came out for what was it? Was it DC All Access?
It was
Fandom.
a Fandom. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was the only person that watched that trailer and was like, that looks bad. I don't know. I know Shenandoah, you and I talked about it right after the fact and you loved it. You have a shirt about it and everything.
I said yes.
Wow.
Leave me out of this.
I watched it and I was just, to me, it looks like a reheated leftovers of the Nolan era. And like, I think the costume looks bad. I think he did the I am the vengeance line and I'm like, this is stupid. I don't know. To me, it didn't work. It looked like they're setting up like 40 villains. Because that's always that's always a good sign in Batman movies when there's like a ton of villains, So
well, I'm interested to see how they do it. Like if the rumor is that this is sort of year 1/year 2.
Yeah.
And so if they're doing sort of like a lived in Gotham where like Oswald Cobblepot is a person that, has penguin-like tendencies, but he's not the penguin yet.
He's not like a monster.
Yeah. I mean, then like that's what we were kind of hoping that the Tim Burton universe would grow into, that they planted the seeds for like Harvey Dent and these other things. So I think this would be a great way to see a Batman that we don't have to go through the whole origin again and all the training and stuff, but he's not quite like the polished version yet either. And I don't think we've seen a movie in that era. And I think it'd be a really interesting thing if they can pull it off correctly.
Oh yeah,
I'm hopeful for it.
Yeah, don't misunderstand me. I want it to be a good movie. And I think Robert Pattinson, I think he can do it. Why not? My joke when they announced he was casting was like, well, he already has experience playing a Batman because he was a vampire. But I think he's a legitimately good actor. He just was in Twilight, which isn't good movies, but like I've seen him in things after the fact. I think he can do it. I like the idea of like year 1 Batman. Year 1's the only, in my hot take, is the only good Frank Miller story. And that even still like I have problems with that. But I don't know. The trailer didn't do much for me. Maybe it's another trailer. I'm like, oh, okay, this is more my thing. Or maybe I'll see stuff. I'll definitely see it when it comes out. It just, I don't know. It didn't do much for me. And like the hype everyone was having for it. I guess I'm a little bit of a different position where like, since I work in a comic book store and I'm there all day long, people want to talk to me about things. And I'm just like, I'm nowhere near as hyped for this as everyone else seems to be. I had kind of a similar experience with Days of Future Past where I was like, I didn't particularly care for the movie. Like everyone's like, it's the best X-Men movie. I was like, I don't think so. But that's a whole other podcast we did on that like years and years and years ago, which I don't recommend looking up because I'm a little embarrassed by my reaction to it. Because I went way over the top with how much I hate it. I don't actually hate it. But like all day, everyone was needling me about how I don't like it. And I was getting really annoyed.
Kendall's perfectly timed laughter.
Yeah. Listen, Kendall and I are an old married couple. He knows what I'm talking about. But yeah. Do you guys have any like hopes and dreams? I mean, not dreams, but like what, you guys hyped for the Batman?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh no.
I'm very excited about it. I mean, I I really liked the trailer, I like what it presented, but I'm also of the mindset where I'm like, I'm tired of, the gritty, dark, but at the same time, I really liked the feeling of the trailer. It felt very like David Fincher, which is definitely a very different direction than Nolan, but also still dark and gritty. So I don't know. I like the cast. I think the cast is great. I think Andy Serkis as Alfred is going to be fantastic.
Other than Robert Pattinson, I don't remember who's in it.
Yeah, there's Andy Serkis as Alfred. You have Zoe Kravitz playing Catwoman. Paul Dano is the Riddler. Colin Farrell is Penguin. And John Turturro is playing Falcone.
And
the
IMDb, who needs it?
Commissioner Gordon is.
Oh yes! Oh my God, Jeffrey Wright.
Jeffrey Wright, yes.
Who's going to be incredible?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
He's incredible in everything.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. Like again, Batman. You mentioned 3 villains.
That's true. Yeah, those are a whopping 3 villains. I know originally they were kind of leaning more towards not Long Halloween. It was definitely some year 1 stuff they had planned. But originally they were thinking Long Halloween, but now it's definitely turned more towards
some like Hush. In there
yeah.
too.
I mean, I love,
it seems very much like that.
I mean, I love Long Halloween. They adapted the best parts of it in The Dark Knight, though. The Harvey Dent stuff, like the stuff with the mob. Granted, they didn't. I like the idea of the year-long mystery. I'm not sure if that makes the best movie, but like, I think an HBO like miniseries or something would be cool. I'd rather see 4 hours of that than 4 hours of more Justice League. A movie I don't like by a creator I really don't like.
Yeah, I don't get the impression that this is going to be all of those villains like against Batman in like all of their villainry. Like I think they're more citizens of Gotham, and we're going to check in on them at various stages of their maybe
it's more
criminal
like
career.
Edward Nygma rather than the Riddler.
That's my impression. I don't know very much about the movie other than the trailer, but that's sort of what I got from it.
I mean, a fun twist on Riddler then is like maybe he works for Batman, like he works at Wayne Enterprises, like maybe he's one of his head R&D guys or something. In the wake of Hush, the comic book, Riddler reveals that he figured out who Batman is, but the answer to a riddle like is only as valuable as like less people know it. So like he kind of doesn't say it, but that sparked like the Riddler trying to turn over a new leaf and being like a private eye, and I think that's an interesting take for that character.
Which is I love that whole arc for him.
Yeah, and then he became like a supporting character in Gotham City Sirens, which was a surprisingly good book at the time. I don't know if I could cast like a Batman movie or go for one. I don't know what I would go for.
That would require a whole different episode.
What villains?
Yeah, we would have to talk about something very different. I definitely wouldn't want to use the Joker. In general, I think they go to the well too often with him in the comics. They go to the well too often with him in the movies stuff. I understand it's his most iconic and crowd favorite villain, but like I've seen enough. I would like
maybe a Court of Owls might be interesting.
Court of Owls would be awesome.
Yeah. I'd really liked a kind of horror-driven film with Clayface.
Ooh, Clayface is also a good
That'd be great.
I would maybe go for a horror-driven film, but with Man-Bat.
Oh yeah, that's another.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
Why not both?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Clayface can turn
some of
into
the best
Man-Bat.
episodes of the animated series.
Sure.
Some of the best episodes of the animated series were Clayface, and some of the most emotional ones too. And I changed my answer. I want that. I want Shenandoah's movie.
Yeah. And then to be fair, that's what makes Batman's Rogues Gallery one of the more compelling is you can give them like real tragedy and pathos.
Yeah.
The Joker, like, you're only one bad day away from your whole life being ruined. Like this, Batman has that same origin as well, where all of a sudden his parents are murdered. Yeah, I don't know. That's something I'm going to think about. We're definitely going to do an animated series episode because I want to talk about it a lot more now.
I think an Almost Got Him kind of story told from
it's Almost Got Him.
So good.
Like a movie from the villains would be interesting.
Because that's a good way to have multiple villains, but like you can kind of give them like small little adventures, but it's told from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun, actually. I think that's too experimental for them to do a full like big budget theatrical release for, because like how would you even market that?
Yeah.
But they almost got him, or we almost got him, or whatever it's called, is one of the best episodes of that show.
So great.
Yeah. What about you, Kendall? You paying attention to the Batman?
Me?
Yeah.
I haven't watched. Is it part of the DCEU or?
No, it's its own thing.
I'm glad that they're doing movies.
Such a weird marketing choice.
I'm glad
There's
their own thing. Yeah, like
there's almost like no marketing for it, which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, not since that trailer.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Well, then there's the other project with the Michael Keaton coming back as
that's
an older,
Flash,
right? Which is the Flash. Yeah.
So it's gonna have like the multiverse and stuff in it, right? So,
mm-hmm.
Or is he coming back as the Flashpoint version of Batman, who is Thomas Wayne?
No, there's another actor cast as Thomas Wayne. I want to say.
Is it what's his face from Batman v Superman from The Walking Dead?
I think it's him. I think. I'm not sure.
The Negan guy, whatever his name is, I cannot remember.
Yeah,
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yes, I remember it was like a 3-name thing. I was like, I don't even remember one of them.
Yeah, but I think that would. A lot of people are saying they want to see like a live action Batman Beyond.
I think that would be
Michael
really
Keaton
cool. Yeah, Michael Keaton
set that up.
Older Bruce Wayne. Yeah. That's part of what was really fun about Birdman, because he more or less it had like elements of like autobiographical thing, because he was really defined by being the superhero like years ago, as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And then he played another Birdman in Spider-Man.
Yeah, he seems to be open to coming back to the superhero genre.
Michael Keaton was really good as the Vulture. Like, I would be so down for a live action Batman Beyond just to see him return to that character. And I think he still got it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think he could still pull off that let's get nuts kind of energy, you know?
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Sure.
Yeah. Now that's my dream Batman movie. That's what I want.
I think we're living in this world where they're doing sequels that are like legacy sequels, and they cut out some of the stuff they don't like in the middle, and they're like, okay, this is only a sequel to the second part of this movie franchise, but forget 3, 4, and 5. It would be really cool if we could do like an epilogue to the Keaton Burton universe.
Oh my God, they could bring back Billy D. Williams as
exactly. Exactly. I mean, he wouldn't quite be the showstopper, physical.
Yeah, but like they could show like he's in jail or something. You know what I mean? Like just some sort of nod to be like, all right, the other 2 movies don't happen here.
I think it's all on the table, with the way that they're doing legacy sequels now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would
be a great candidate.
Really cool if that's the.
I would be worried
of 89.
Just like Tim Burton hasn't made a good movie.
I wouldn't make it Tim Burton. I wouldn't have
true now.
Tim Burton hasn't made a good movie in over 20 years.
Yeah.
A sequel in that world, like, because someone can kind of take the Art Deco like look, or really, because they can go for like, because Batman Beyond has like a really unrealistic like cyberpunky future to it. Because again, like it's got kind of that ethereal, dreamish quality. Like it doesn't have to be super realistic looking. Yeah, I think that's what I really want now. All right, well, that was the podcast. We decided.
Make it happen, DC.
Yeah,
I would like
now. Yeah.
It'd be cool just because there are so many versions of this character. And I mean, they couldn't do it without being like ripping off Into the Spider-Verse, but I kind of think that would be cool. I really wanted a Brave and the Bold episode like that. Like,
oh yeah, that would have been awesome. See, I also love the Brave. We're gonna talk about Batman cartoons in the end of the podcast. You know what? And it's funny that you had that thought, because in the wake of Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, the video game, which was way before Into Spider-Verse came out, I was like, man, I'd really love a Batman version of this. So you can have the Adam West one, you can have the animated series, you could have the Christian Bale Batman, and they can all have such different play styles from each other. Yeah, there could have been a lot of fun to that. Like, I don't know what I would have all the Batmen do together. To be fair, Into the Spider-Verse, before I saw it, I didn't think that would work. And then that is the best Spider-Man movie. And
I think that's my favorite superhero movie.
It's so good.
It's arguable. It's my favorite superhero movie as well. To me, it comes down to between that, The Incredibles, and The Dark Knight. and the Dark Knight is so different from those two.
Yeah.
Mask
But
is
no, it'd be
fantastic.
great to be able to revisit any of these universes again and sort of give them the proper ending that they didn't get because of whatever legality or contract rights or whatever.
I know they sort of did a little bit of that with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, I forget what the deal is. I think Burt Ward showed up in one. He's supposed to be old Robin. There was some reference to the Batman '89 universe, but like was Michael Keaton in the show?
It was the guy who played Knox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he showed up.
Knox.
I know, me too.
Dang, I should watch that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I love Knox. Wow.
Oh yeah. So was he just doing like a report on TV or something?
I think he was reporting on the crisis.
Yeah. So I knew there was like a cheeky like reference to that.
Yeah.
And that.
And I think there was also there was like a picture of Keaton on like a newspaper or something.
Kevin Conroy came back and played Batman.
Yes.
That's who came back and played Batman in that. That's what I remember. But I think that's the first time you got to play him in live action.
Yes.
Which is exciting.
Yeah.
Oh man. Because wasn't he the Batman Beyond Batman, like Bruce Wayne?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was in the cartoon, but I think he was supposed to be that in Crisis.
Oh, I don't know.
Like, I think like loosely. I'm pretty sure that was what he was based on.
Okay. Damn, that's really cool. Now I wish I liked the CW show so I could watch them.
Well, this is all I know about it.
Yeah.
Like, I stopped watching all of those shows, I think, within like season 2 of each of them. So
I didn't even finish the first season of Flash. And that was when I was mildly able to get into. It's just that
I got
CW melodrama.
The first season. I was like,
yeah, it's
never.
A little rough.
I didn't make them brother and sister.
Oh my god, no. Oh, it didn't even get me started. Oh, it's terrible.
Wait, who's brother and sister?
Iris and Barry are like
step
siblings.
Step siblings, yeah. Sort of.
I did see that.
Yeah, he was like he's like her adopted brother. I was like, why? Why is this happening?
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, technically, it's fine. They're not really.
Oh, no. And that's the end of this conversation.
Yep, and that's how we end the Batman podcast.
Yeah, you can always tell when we have a long when we get real punch drunk at the end. But yeah, guys, final thoughts on Batman movies? Anything you think we didn't discuss? I know this is probably the longest episode we've ever done.
Oh jeez.
Oh.
I know, it's fine. I've enjoyed this very much. I'm really glad we did it. There is a lot of ground to cover. This we discussed 13 Batman movies and then a bonus 14th one with Return of the Joker.
Yeah. You know, one thing I'd say is I think even the really bad ones, even the DCEU, there are things that you can pick out and enjoy to an extent. Like you can at least try to you might not like the entire 3-hour runtime, but there's parts of it that you can say, oh, that was a cool decision, or like I like that part.
Yeah. The Batman parts of Dawn of Justice are the best parts of it, you know.
Yeah, they're worth your time.
Justice League, I can't think of any part that's great, but like
did they ever explain the trench coat Batman thing?
No.
The desert scene?
No.
Yeah, no.
No, but I'm sure we'll find out in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah. I don't know.
What is this? This movie is so long.
It's a tease for Justice League because it's supposed to be setting up Darkseid.
Yeah, I saw the parademons.
It's like there's a giant Omega symbol on the ground and stuff. I don't know.
Planting the seeds.
It's weird that Batman got a weird nightmare premonition. Like that's not Batman's thing. And then was it even
of all the people?
And like how? And then Flash shows up, and he should have been like, "Who was that? What was that about?"
Also in a dream.
Yeah, also in a dream. Like I don't get it.
That was we've got to shoehorn these characters in quick.
Exactly.
Marvel's ahead of us.
Yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind Ben Affleck coming back as like older Batman. Like
I think he's good. It's just
I think with the right material, like that could be a really cool movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not the biggest Ben Affleck guy, but I don't dislike him. I mean, you know, I grew up with Kevin Smith movies. I can't hate him.
That's where I sit with him.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, like that would have been a good one too. But like if we're gonna get old Batman, I want Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
I actually heard a rumor that Keaton is supposed to come back and replace Affleck in the DCEU.
It's just the
Because
DCEU, so I don't care.
right,
Yeah.
right, I know. I was like, I don't understand how that would happen, considering I thought this was the Flash was like the end of it. So I don't know. Not that I would be adverse to Keaton replacing Affleck. Overall, I would rather have Keaton.
Yeah, it just feels weird because it feels like if you're doing the Flashpoint story,
Yeah.
with alternate universes already,
right?
Just
I don't know. That was just one of the many things I've heard about this movie. It's
I mean, the continuity in these movies don't make any sense anyway. Wonder Woman 84 like doesn't make any sense in the context of the greater DCEU. Like the whole world came to like almost ended and nobody remembers it. And Wonder Woman saved the day, and Batman's chiding her for like not saving the day. I don't know.
Don't think about it too hard or break your brain.
I try not to. Kendall was texting me while watching Batman v Superman. He's like, I think you were saying your brain was breaking during parts of it.
Oh, I was like, I don't think I can be on the podcast. I think this movie, I'm gonna like,
yeah,
my brain's gonna collapse.
Can't form words after that.
Oh my god, what a waste of time. Yeah, and honestly, since I like didn't get started in time to watch Justice League, I probably won't ever watch it.
I don't think it's worth your time.
Yeah.
That said, if there's any Batman movies on this list you haven't seen, for the most part, they're all worth watching.
Yeah, there's something there's something good and something you can pick out that you like in all of them.
Oh, definitely.
I like even if you take your Batman like grimdark and serious, like watch the more lighthearted ones. I think it's an extreme. It shows like how strong the franchise is, that it's so adaptable to tone and setting. Like they could throw Batman in space and it would work. Like I think it shows what a strong concept the character is, and I think that's just it's a big part of his enduring legacy. I think you can make a comedy is just as viable as like a really serious character breakdown and study. Like you can get two great movies out of them. They're so wildly different from each other, but like they both work in their own way. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and this franchise has shown an ability to come back from the dead too. I mean, even when it kind of went off a cliff with the Batman and Robin era, then it came back strong with the Nolan trilogy. And then after Dark Knight Rises kind of disappointed, they took a break, retooled a little bit, tried to bring it back for the Dawn of Justice, and now it's kind of, up in the air again, and they're going to try to reinvent it again. So like you said, Scott, I mean, it's this kind of a testament to the character, because there's other franchises that once you have that one bad outing, they're done. I mean, Green Lantern, it's a perfect example.
They won't even talk about them. Yeah. But I was gonna say, like, so, like Superman, like they keep trying to make him have a movie franchise, and it keeps not working. Like it fell apart by the end of the Christopher Reeve stuff. Superman Returns was supposed to kick stuff off. They tried to make Superman Lives in the 90s, and it didn't happen, obviously. But like Superman Returns was another like failed start, and that was a sequel to the first two rather than all four. I think Man of Steel was a misfire, because like the DCEU was off the rails like immediately, and they killed Superman in the second movie he was in. I Wonder Woman like it took forever for her to even get one movie. She got a decent one, and then has been in nothing but badness ever since. Just like other DC characters, I haven't been able to be as adaptable. Like certain way, even like Spider-Man's not been as adaptable. Like the Amazing Spider-Man, everyone hates Spider-Man 3. They tried rebooting him again with Amazing Spider-Man. Those two movies didn't take off. The MCU ones people like, but to me, like lose a lot of what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man. And like almost Spider-Verse almost seems like a miracle fluke. But you know what? It's the same guys who did the Lego movies. Lord and Miller.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that should like, yeah. So if you like Spider-Verse, and give Lego Batman a shot, it's kind of got a similar style to it. It's not a multiverse thing, at least not a multiverse with Batman. They do bring in like other villains from stuff, but you know, it has that humor. They were supposed to do Solo, and then they got kicked off and replaced with Ron Howard.
Yeah.
And I was
because they weren't given the same freedom that they've been given for these other projects. They were kind of caught in a box for the Disney box, and they had to leave.
Yeah, and that sucks.
Yeah,
for real.
And that's why Edgar Wright had to leave Ant-Man, because you got to toe the Disney company line. They own everything. Like, you can't. That's why I don't like them being such a huge monopoly. I don't care that like the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are home now. I'm like, it's not worth one media controlling all of our stuff. That's why I hope Sony keeps Spider-Man forever. We would never have gotten Spider-Verse under Disney, and because they wouldn't. That's such a weird experiment to take. Just the art style alone, like. Anyway, this is going off on a weird tangent.
Well, to bring it back, I mean, I think, you know, seeing the risks that a live action Batman would be able to take, that's what I'm hopeful for the Batman. I'm hopeful that this new era, they do take some risks, maybe not as far as the Batman Forever, Batman and Robin risks, but you know, let's try to get away from this dark and gritty thing that we've been stuck in since the mid 2000s, and let's try something new and go somewhere new with the character.
You know what? I think that might be why that trailer didn't do much for me. It's just like, as I've already kind of seen that version of Batman. And I'm ready for something a little different, or something a little more surprising. Like if this was Batman Beyond, like, and Robert Pattinson was Terry McGinnis, and
I wish.
And Michael Keaton was Bruce Wayne. Like I'd be really down for that. Although really, like, they could bring Kevin Conroy in as Bruce Wayne for that too.
They could.
Yeah.
You know, but I like it as the Batman Returns, or Superman Returns rather, version of for the original two Burton movies. I think that would be cool.
Yeah,
I guess that's my ideal Batman movie right now. And you could play with like the technology, and like, because his villains are real sci-fi and weird. Like, it would be kind of cool to see a glowing skeleton man on screen. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know if they could do a Return of the Joker because they didn't quite establish the Bat family, but like a Jack Nicholson return, you know, just kind of work him in.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
I mean, that'd be my idea.
I didn't even think about that.
I mean, it'd probably be that weird de-aging CGI thing.
It would de-age me,
of course.
Oh well, but yeah,
as long as he has his real big.
How is he walking with that?
Son of Bob's Revenge.
Oh my God, Bob Jr.
Bob Jr. You are my number 2 guy.
Oh, poor Bob.
You're my number 1.5 guy.
Yep.
Oh God. Yeah. So yeah, even if I was saying like, you know, I put Batman 89 as like middle of the road, like I still obviously really enjoy that movie. We talked about it extensively. But yeah, I think I'm going to end the podcast now. I keep false ending us, and then we keep going on a different thing. But stay tuned. You know, we're going to have a special episode next week. So until then, stay safe.